I have the device.
Adam Curry, John C. Dvorak.
It's Thursday, July 12th, 2018. This is your award-winning Gitmo Nation Media Assassination, episode 1050.
This is No Agenda.
No Brexit World Cup. What is wrong with the elites? We're broadcasting live from the capital of the Drone Star State here in downtown Austin, Tejas, in the Cludio in the morning, everybody. I'm Adam Curry.
And from northern Silicon Valley, where they're chopping down dead trees in front of the house, I'm John C. Dvorak.
It's Crackpot and Buzzkill in the morning.
I was so disappointed yesterday. I was rooting for him.
I don't know what they're thinking.
What they're thinking is Croatia's just a better team.
Well, that was always the case, but that's not the way it works.
I know. I was sitting there, too, like, who didn't get the memo? Are these guys just mutiny? Is it mutiny that we see here from the Croatians? Congratulations, though, your Slavic brethren on the way to the finals.
Yeah. It's a great place, too. I recommend anyone who wants to take an offbeat vacation. There's more stuff. There's more cool places in Croatia than anywhere else in the European area, in the Adriatic. It's better than Italy. Did we miss something about Croatia? Is there something in play maybe that they're doing so well that we just didn't understand? That I focused too much on the Brexit World Cup and they didn't throw it that way because there's something else happening? Could Croatia become? I mean, how many people live in Croatia? Like 2 million people? No, I think there's more than that. We can look it up. We shouldn't just be banding about facts that we don't know what to talk about. Like everybody else, Croatian population.
4.171.
That sounds right.
Yeah, okay. So it's a small country.
Yeah. It's exactly on the other side of the Adriatic from Italy.
From Italy, yeah.
Parallels Italy. And it has the same wine growing characteristics as Italy, and they make a lot of good wine there.
Do they have a port?
It's all ports.
Okay. Because that's where the Chinese they're getting pretty close there with their sea route.
I don't know.
Well, maybe it's just a fair game. Oh, what am I thinking?
Well, let's see. They have similar colored flags. So it can't be the flag. I don't know. I won't be able to predict this one. I'll predict it. France is going to win.
Well, France should be the better team. But again, what if just Croatia just wins? What an upset that would be.
If Croatia wins the World Cup when France hasn't won it for 40 years, something like that?
No, that's not true.
No, I think it's got to assuage France. They've had all the riots. We reported on them, but nobody else is reporting on all the riots throughout the country. They need a win. France needs a little boost.
Yeah. Yes. Okay.
And they may have also considered the fact that if it was France-England, it would have been a lot of hooligans. It would have been a mess. Riots would have broken out. They would have given the games a bad name.
This is perhaps true. I don't know. I just wasn't. I was really expecting England to win, and they had everything going for them.
Yeah.
But then again, back home, things not so good. Things not so good back home with Brexit.
No, Johnson and a couple other people quit the cabinet, and then they got a send off from Theresa May, which was something of an embarrassment. Because everyone was hooting and hollering. I mean, this guy, you think, the guy serves the government for so long and they just mock him as he's leaving. Boris, I have a clip.
Oh, well, Boris always was kind of a guy who I think he liked being mocked.
Yeah, but this is kind of a ridiculous situation. I thought it was rude.
Mr. Speaker.
Yeah, I'm just saying the Brits are always bitching about Trump being rude, and this is them.
Mr. Speaker, I want to pay tribute to my right honourable friend. The members for Halton, Price and Howden and Uxbridge and South Ruislip for their work over the last 2 years. We do not agree about the best way of delivering our shared commitment to honour the result of the referendum, but I want to recognise the work of the former Secretary of State for exiting the European Union, for the work he did to establish a new department and steer through Parliament some of the most important legislation for generations. And similarly to recognise the passion that the former Foreign Secretary demonstrated in promoting.
Order! There's a very unseemly atmosphere. I want to hear about these important matters. And I think the House should. The Prime Minister.
Thank you. That the former Foreign Secretary demonstrated in promoting a global Britain to the world as we leave the European Union. And I'm also pleased to welcome my honourable friend, the member for Esher and Walton, as the new Secretary of State for exiting the European Union.
So, I like, having lived in the UK, I really do understand this humor. And I think Boris Johnson probably appreciated that too. It was funny.
Yeah, it was funny.
So the way
important matters, I get a kick out of the speaker.
Yes.
I want to hear the important matters.
So the way I understand what happened that caused this existential crisis is that Theresa May had a big powwow at the Chequers, which I didn't know what the Chequers was. It's just some old stodgy mansion that I guess the Prime Minister...
Yeah, that's where they have their meetings.
Yeah, they go out there, hang out, and drink.
Yeah.
And but apparently she had already come up with some plan to which I don't even know if the contents have been made public, exactly what the plan was or what the deal was. And I think the real accusation is that she had already pre-cleared this with Angela Merkel before she spoke to anybody else. I have a clip here from Jacob Rees-Mogg. I have no idea who he is, but I like what he was saying. And it was on the news in the UK, so I thought, this makes sense.
But she is the one who has put these proposals together at Chequers. She's the one who has to take them to Brussels. And by saying that what she's come up with you don't support, how can you square that with saying that she still has your confidence?
Well, I think they may have been taken to Brussels and to Berlin before they were presented at Chequers, which is a serious question. And there's another question about how they were drawn up, because they were drawn up in secret without telling the Secretary of State for leaving the European Union, David Davis, what was going on, whilst his department was working on a white paper. I don't think it has been handled in a proper governmental system in accordance with our constitutional norms. But how do I maintain...
So can I just clarify? Are you accusing the Prime Minister of having effectively pre-agreed what she was going to ultimately come up with at the end of Chequers with Brussels?
No, I'm just noting that she went to see the German Chancellor just before these proposals were put forward, which seem not to be unwelcome to Mrs. Merkel. I think that is an interesting point to note, but is not within the norms of the Constitution to discuss British policy with other leaders before it's presented to the Cabinet. So I'm concerned about this process, and I think the result of it is bad. But there are many other areas of policy where I support the Prime Minister. So the Prime Minister personally retains my confidence, but this policy does not, and I will not support it.
So that's Jacob Rees-Mogg is a member of Parliament, Conservative. So it's her own party. So it sounds like, she was in cahoots with Angela.
Well, it sounds like to me. There's also Boris's note that he sent in his resignation had a couple of points that I think should be at least commented upon. He says that she has pretty much, and he cites an example that apparently has been going on forever, which is the killing of bicyclists in the city of London.
Yes,
because they can't come up with any legislation. And he says to this day they haven't come up with, and he's mentioning these bicyclists are mostly women for some reason. He says they can't come up with any legislation because the commentary is always, well, let's let the EU legislate it. And he believes that all they're doing is just passing off all their responsibilities to the EU so they don't have to do anything. And he says this is not what Brexit is about. It's about getting our independence back. And so he quit.
Yeah. And the foreign secretary as well? No, not the foreign. That's what Boris Johnson is. Who's the other guy who resigned?
Oh, there was a couple of Brexit experts or something.
The Brexit.
Two others.
The Brexit minister. Yes, that's right.
Yeah,
David
Davis,
guy
and his buddy.
So, I mean, is it going to come down to what we predicted? Will it just be a do-over? Is that what's going to happen? Will May get kicked out? I mean, how does this work over there? How do will they call an election?
You live there. You should know how it works.
No,
they could kick her. They could have another election. They could kick her out. She could lose her majority. There's a million things that could happen. But the way it looks is that, no, they're not going to have another redo. They're just going to kind of form their Brexit strategy is going to be to kind of like, it's like the whole thing's a scam.
So the
strategy is a scam. It's like, no, we're going to let you guys call the shots like you used to. You can do what you want with trade. We'll do whatever you say. We're just going to be.
Okay.
We're going to be a colony, is what of the EU. We're not going to be in the EU. We're going to be. They're going to become Puerto Rico of the EU.
Well, they already were kind of like that in a way.
Well,
they still had their own.
I think they were one of the cornerstone operations, except they kept giving up more and more sovereignty to Brussels.
Yeah,
it's a disaster.
I like the comparison of Puerto Rico. I think that's.
Yeah, I'm going to stick with that one.
And Puerto Ricans everywhere now hate you.
No, they shouldn't hate me. Britain's a good place to compare themselves to.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Puerto Ricans know that they should either be a state, they should get a crap or get off the pot kind of thing.
Yeah.
And Puerto Rico is not treated well. Britain is going to be in that same situation.
The plan that I read about, this was, of course, reported by The Sun, so take it for what you want. Their headline was, Ministers of Parliament have drawn up secret plans to stockpile processed food in the event EU divorce talks collapse, so that they'll be able to show Brussels that no deal is not a bluff. So, in other words,
doesn't sound right.
If it
doesn't, already the no deal is falling apart.
Yeah, so that's why they're stockpiling processed food for the people of England to eat.
Are they going to have to need another one of these World War II rescue things going on with these ships?
I don't know.
Ships have to go over there and drop food off?
Airdrop it.
They got fish. The whole area is surrounded by fish.
Why don't we? I think we should do a crowdfund and send them mac and cheese. Hey, Americans do love you. Here, have some boxes of Kraft.
Some boxes.
We love you. We love you. Yeah. All right. Well, meanwhile, President Trump is he already there? Is he on his way to meet Teresa? I think it is officially.
At the moment, I think he might be. He might be. I mean,
Teresa.
I think the NATO talks are over. I think. I mean, I don't know what the timeline is, because the way they present it to the American public with the mainstream media is unless he says something incredibly stupid or insulting.
Oh, it doesn't matter what he does. It'll be perceived as insulting regardless.
Yeah.
They have this blimp they're going to fly, the Trump baby blimp.
Yeah.
Which it's like that's been a big thing in the news in the UK. It's like one of those things everyone can have a little talk about. Is it proper? Is it improper? Should it be allowed? Should it not be allowed? And of course, Sadiq Khan, the mayor of London, is getting a lot of heat for allowing it, for providing the permit.
It's probably his idea.
Well, one of the organizers was on MSNBC. Was this one of the organizers? I think so. Let me see what this is. This was, I think it was, because it was some American woman, or at least American sounding woman, who is supposed to be one of the spokespeople for this event. Let me see what this clip is. Hold on.
With this giant inflatable Trump baby, we're trying to protest basically Trump's policies and his toxic politics.
So how can this be a British initiative unless she's an expat? But she's not really positioned that way, but anyway.
But we're kind of trying to do that with a humorous note.
And with the humor, what exactly are you trying to say about Donald Trump?
Well, we went with a baby because we feel that Trump has a lot of the characteristics of a baby, such as throwing your toys out of the pram or...
Is that on the rotation?
Oh, yeah, childlike.
Yeah, childlike.
Needs an adult in the room.
Big
on
baby.
The rotation.
Yeah,
this
big baby.
That Trump has a lot of the characteristics of a baby, such as throwing your toys out of the pram or throwing tantrums. And we think that those qualities are very problematic for the leader of a nation, so that's why we decided to highlight those. The blimp, I think what we were considering when we were planning this protest is kind of what would have an effect. So we've seen that moral outrage doesn't work with Donald Trump. He just harnesses that outrage and kind of to blame shift onto the people who he is outraging. Just normal diplomacy doesn't work with him. Reasoning doesn't work with him. But he really hates being mocked. So that definitely came into play when we were designing the blimp.
So what do you expect to happen at these protests? How do you hope that they will resonate both in your country and potentially?
Well, if they do it right, then the thing will pop because he's so thin thin-skinned, then we'll deflate, and then they'll have a double whammy.
How do you hope they will resonate both in your country and potentially in ours this week?
Well, I think one of the reasons why we protest is to send a message to people who've been affected by Trump's disastrous policies, migrants, refugees, but also people who are affected by climate change. And I guess one of the messages that we're trying...
I like people who are affected by climate change. It's a message. People who are affected by...
It's out of control.
Policies, migrants, refugees, but also people who are affected by climate change. And I guess one of the messages that we're trying to send is that we're still here and we're still resisting.
Resisting.
And,
this is no Brit. I don't know how this fits together. I did try to find out who's who. The originator is an English guy, but he talks about his
why don't they talk
promoters.
to him instead of this dingbat?
Because she is the one of the spokesholes for the project. You see, that's what he announces, that she would be doing all that. But when she's talking about, these are Americanism term she's using.
I guess one of the messages that we're trying to send is that we're still here and we're still resisting.
Dude, resisting, that's not a British thing. This is a U.S. thing.
And there's still someone on their side. And from the messages that we've had, it seems to really resonate. And we feel that we've definitely accomplished at least that goal with this protest.
I wonder why she switches from "I feel" to "we feel." Did you catch yourself making an error there?
Maybe.
I feel, we feel.
Yeah, I don't even know if it's probably not that important. It's everyone's they're obsessed with it.
You gave me an idea.
Mm-hmm.
I think the British public should have this idea in mind. I don't know what the legality is of BB guns or pellet guns in the country.
Oh no, there's already rewards out for people with drones to go and pop it. Fly the drone into it.
That's what I was thinking. There should be some popping mechanism.
What's called the drone
floating around. I mean, in the United States, in a situation like this, there'd be some sniper rifle would just take care of this thing.
I half kind of expect some brazen dude to just fly his drone right into it.
That would be the way to go, and you have to sacrifice the drone.
Well, yeah. Can you imagine a swarm of drones just attacking this thing? That'd be great. That'd be great footage.
You're finally penetrating.
That would be good.
The thing caves in and falls on top of some power lines because obviously it looks like it's aluminized. That would keep it sturdy. So it falls on some power lines, short out the whole city of London, become a huge fiasco.
Now you're just daydreaming. Now you're just wishing.
I'm hoping. Yeah. I'm not daydreaming. This is just wishful thinking.
We were on the balcony the other night. It was just a bit before sundown. And so we're up high. We're 29th floor. And Tina says, holy crap. And there was a drone looking right at us. And this thing was powerful. It flew all over the city. And I think maybe the operator was down on the lawn of the what is it, the Dell Center.
Everybody should have one of those net guns.
Well, the thing is, if I were to shoot it, it could fall on somebody down below. I mean, it's just the street down there, so that's not a great idea. But
I didn't think shooting. I think netting it.
Oh, isn't that from the cartoons? I don't know if that really exists. A net gun. But it's so rude. You feel so violated. It's like, why? Who is doing this?
That's what I would net it. In fact, if you could net it with a fish line and you could just throw a net over it and then pull it into the place and then stomp on it and then sense like a bug and then sense throw a paper plane down with a note on it saying, I got your smashed drone, you a-hole.
No, I know. There's I believe there's some apparatus not dissimilar to the dog dazer that you maybe at a short distance you can interrupt its signal. I don't know. It would probably just fly back to home base.
No, I don't think a really, really expensive drone would do that, but I think someone would just get scrambled and go off into the Netherlands, just nowhere. Land on a roof. You gotta never find it.
I've got a note here from here we go. DroneShield.com. That's where we want to be. They have the drone gun. Tactical. I think that would be for me. Let's see. Woo! This is not. Drone Gun Tactical provides a safe countermeasure against a wide range of drone models. It allows for a controlled management of drone payload, such as explosives, with no damage to common drone models. So what can you do? Oh, it has 1 kilometer coverage. What can you do with this thing? Can you, like a tractor beam, can you pull it in? This is cool.
Yeah.
See, it says
your next project.
Yeah, these things, they look very militaristic. Oh my God, these are great. But it doesn't really show me how it works.
What's the URL?
Droneshield.com.
Okay.
Drone Shield.
Do their own research.
Yeah, this is very interesting. Well, although it looks expensive, I don't know if I'm going on this.
Well, if I had a drone on the 26th floor, whatever floor you're talking about, up there looking I'd probably.
Yeah, it was weird.
You know who was running that drone?
No,
the Dutch press.
Oh yeah. Okay, all the more reason. All right, I'll look into the drone gun. I think this is one of the few shows where we can actually play things within context and full length because we don't have any commercial pods to hit or the news at the top of the hour.
Hard break.
I found very hard break. I found the breakfast meeting that the president had with Jens Stoltenberg of NATO actually pretty good. And I think the mainstream M5M really just did a disservice by only showing little bits and pieces of it, just to get the headline out. Did you see the whole thing?
No, but I noticed that NATO guy was just with his Dutch accent.
Yeah, well,
he seemed very happy to be working with Trump.
Yeah, in fact, the way it started off, I have the clip here. Well, listen to what he says.
First of all, it's great to see you again, Mr. President, and good to have you here for the summit. And we are going to discuss many important issues at the summit. Among them is defense spending. And we all agree that we have to do more. I agree with you that we have to make sure that allies are investing more. The good news is that allies have started to invest more in defense. After years of cutting defense budgets, they have started to add billions to their defense budgets. And last year was the biggest increase in defense spending across Europe and Canada in a generation.
Why was that last year?
It's also because of your leadership, because your clear message.
It's because of your leadership that they're already no one reported on this. That they've actually started to up it. He calls them out,
it's
too.
It's also because of your leadership, because your clear message. And
they won't write that.
No, I have said it before. And
they won't write that, he says, pointing at the press. No, I've said it before.
But the thing is that it really has, your message is having an impact. And we are going to build on that to make sure that we have further.
If the media hadn't taken the course they already have, they could have said, oh, really? Well, Obama did that, okay? They could have taken credit for that. But no, they already went all in on this is just insane what he's saying. Whereas in 2014, 2016, very hard to find. I could not find a decent clip of President Obama on any search engine where I know what he said. He said in 2016, he said, Greece, congratulations, you guys are right up there. That's, you're spending your 2% of GDP. Which must have been some deal with Goldman Sachs after they got bailed out. I have no idea.
Actually, I believe they're about 2.1, 2.2.
They're more than most. And Obama was complaining about there only being 4 or 5 countries who were even at or close to the 2% GDP spending. And no one gave him shit about it. Actually, European leaders gave him some shit about it, but not, I don't think here was like, yeah, exactly. So he was saying the exact same thing.
Yes.
But Trump had
Obama.
But Trump had a twist, and it was one of the best ones. I couldn't have even imagined it. It's something that it was almost like a no agenda deconstruction.
Well, I have to say, I think it's very sad when Germany makes a massive oil and gas deal with Russia, where you're supposed to be guarding against Russia, and Germany goes out and pays billions and billions of dollars a year to Russia. So we're protecting Germany, we're protecting France, we're protecting all of these countries. And then numerous of the countries go out and make a pipeline deal with Russia where they're paying billions of dollars into the coffers of Russia. So we're supposed to protect you against Russia, but they're paying billions of dollars to Russia, and I think that's very inappropriate. And the former chancellor of Germany is the head of the pipeline company that's supplying the gas.
It's not like we haven't been looking at that for years. And, the Nord Stream, which Nord Stream 2, I think is what he's talking about here. There is a Nord Stream. There's a South Stream. It's so true. We've always looked at it this way.
Yeah, they got tons of gas and they got to sell it to somebody.
And we have the Euro, what do they call it? The Euro roulette or the Euro roundabout, where, Germany purchases the gas. They purchase it in euros. And then the Russians, they got all this money and they go and purchase Mercedes-Benzes and all kinds of other cool stuff from Germany. That's the way it works. And it's like, it's always been, just pay no attention to that. Don't look over there, or don't look over here. Look way over there. And now Trump is just calling him out on it. And the countries, let's see, it's France, the Netherlands. I think who else is in this? Who else is in this deal? Well, we know Poland's not in the deal. They got cut out of it. But
Netherlands in it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, the Netherlands in it. But when President Obama was bitching about the 2% GDP, it was under the veil in 2014. It was under the veil of Ukraine and the Maidan and the Russians. And, we have, so all this talk about, NATO, that was, that's an alliance. And when 9/11 happened, everyone stood up and sent their soldiers. The thing was set up to protect everyone from Russia, and it's been used subsequently
to protect. Let's get it correct.
It exact right. Okay.
To protect them from the Soviet Union.
Yes, correct.
That's a big difference. Russia.
Yeah, you're right. Anyway, let's just continue because Trump it went on much longer than you saw on TV.
Ultimately, Germany will have almost 70% of their country controlled by Russia with natural gas. So you tell me, is that appropriate? I mean, I've been complaining about this from the time I got in. It should have never been allowed to have happened. But Germany is totally controlled by Russia because they were getting from 60 to 70% of their energy from Russia and a new pipeline. And you tell me if that's appropriate, because I think it's not. And I think it's a very bad thing for NATO, and I don't think it should have happened. And I think we have to talk to Germany about it. On top of that, Germany is just paying a little bit over 1%, whereas the United States, in actual numbers, is paying 4.2% of a much larger GDP. So I think that's inappropriate also. We're protecting Germany, we're protecting France, we're protecting everybody, and yet we're paying a lot of money to protect. Now, this has been going on for decades. This has been brought up by other presidents, but other presidents never did anything about it, because I don't think they understood it or they just didn't want to get involved. But I have to bring it up because I think it's very unfair to our country. It's very unfair to our taxpayer. And I think that these countries have to step it up, not over a 10-year period. They have to step it up immediately. Germany is a rich country. They talk about they're going to increase it a tiny bit by 2030. Well, they could increase it immediately tomorrow and have no problem. I don't think it's fair to the United States. So we're going to have to do something because we're not going to put up with it. We can't put up with it, and it's inappropriate. So we have to talk about the billions and billions of dollars that's being paid to the country that we're supposed to be protecting you against. Everybody's talking about it all over the world. They'll say, well, wait a minute, we're supposed to be protecting you from Russia, but why are you paying billions of dollars to Russia for energy? Why are countries in NATO, namely Germany, having a large percentage of their energy needs paid to Russia and taken care of by Russia? Now, if you look at it, Germany is a captive of Russia because they supply. They got rid of their coal plants. They got rid of their nuclear. They're getting so much of the oil and gas from Russia. I think it's something that NATO has to look at. I think it's very inappropriate. You and I agree that it's inappropriate. I don't know what you can do about it now, but it certainly doesn't seem to make sense that they pay billions of dollars to Russia, and now we have to defend them against Russia.
So, if anything, a topic that we started on the No Agenda show in 2012, that Trump kind of put on the map in like 2 minutes.
Now, we should mention something else that he points out, which I think is worth discussing. They have, because of the green movement, they have ditched all their coal power.
All their coal and the nuclear power.
And then because of Fukushima, they've decided to kill all their nuclear plants, which many of which were modern and fine. And what was the reason for that? Oh, bad. Nukes bad.
Yep.
So, I mean, the whole thing almost looks like a complete scam.
Well, they're compensating, and that was Angela Merkel's idea too. You're right. After Fukushima, we're getting rid of all of it. We're going green. We can do perfect with wind, water, and solar. And then German industry 6 months later went, Angela, this is not working out so well for us. What is they have a term for it?
One of it translates to losing our shirts.
Yes, something like that. We have a lot of the energy problem. Let me see, this is an older clip. I think was one of yours.
This is the most comprehensive climate protection package that the German government has ever presented.
Oh, it's climate protection.
After saying no to nuclear power by 2022, Germany is now aiming to go even more green by
Energiewende.
Getting ready to say goodbye to coal as well, as part of the ambitious plan to cut CO2 emissions by 40% to 1990 levels.
About 45% of power generated in Germany still comes from coal. And as the government aims to reduce this dependency, the question isn't only about what to substitute it with, but perhaps even more importantly, how much it will cost in a country where energy bills are already among the highest in Europe.
Indeed, German consumers have already spent an extra 106 billion euros since 2000 to cover cleaner energy initiatives via a charge added to their bills. Germany is Europe's industrial powerhouse with the biggest appetite for energy on the continent. The government's ultimate goal is to switch to renewable sources like wind, solar, and biomass, currently generating around a quarter of the country's needs. But skeptics warn, no matter how green they may want to go, a fossil fuel backup is vital to keep industries working.
Yeah, that was a report from 2015. So that is just about the time when the Energiewende was in full swing, and it just didn't work out. You don't hear much about it anymore. At the time, oh, yes, they're on the forefront, Germany leading the way.
It's all that stuff from 2015 you don't hear about anymore. That was the high point for high-speed rail.
Yeah. Although we did play a clip about a month ago from NPR, David Frum. Who was he again?
Yeah. I know who he is, but I can't think of who he is.
He was on NPR talking about the Nord Stream 2.
David, I want to ask you about Nord Stream 2, which is this pipeline project proposed to run from Russia to Germany under the Baltic Sea. This, I feel like, complicates some of the policy narratives we've seen here, where the U.S. has been trying to block the construction of that pipeline, in part to prevent the Russians from getting too much power from their supplying of fossil fuels to Europe. What do you make of the Trump administration taking this sort of fairly strong anti-Russia position at this time? One of the things dividing us from Europe, actually us wanting to be tougher on Russia on this issue than they are.
Yeah, the Nord Stream 2 pipeline it's a Eastern European issue. The reason the Russians want to build this pipeline that allows them to supply gas directly to Germany, bypassing Poland, is that they never want to cut off Germany. That's too scary. They've tangled with the Germans a few times. They'd rather not do it again. But this pipeline allows them to turn off gas to Poland and to Ukraine and to other places without turning off gas to Germany. So the reason that the United States has stood strong, or not as strong as it should, against this pipeline is to protect our NATO's eastern flank. Now, it happens that this is a rare case where Donald Trump has another priority along with that of his pro-Russia policy, and that is he is very sympathetic to these increasingly authoritarian small states in Eastern Europe, which are probably his only friends on the continent, especially the Poles, who gave him such a good time. But
what does that mean?
What we're going to see is that Germans have a lot of clout.
Hey, Comrade Trump, we show you a good time in Warsaw. Remember? It was a good time. Except he never gave him the visa waivers.
Yes, he's probably his only friends on the continent, especially the Poles, who gave him such a good time. But what we're going to see is that Germans have a lot of clout, and a lot more clout than the Poles. What traditionally happens at these kinds of summits is that there is vigorous debate inside the leaders' room, which is then cushioned by cooperation outside. I don't know how much leverage Donald Trump has over Germany right now, and zero. It is going to be hard for him to win this without being able to mobilize any sympathetic opinion in Germany.
Yeah, wrong again from who was a political commentator.
Yeah, commentator. Old Hackey used to be
speechwriter for Bush.
George W. Bush.
So he clearly was wrong because the leverage is the NATO payments. That's the leverage.
Yeah, definitely leverage.
To me, it's like, wow.
I believe Frum is another one of the anti-Trumpers.
Oh, I'm sure. Poland did come up in this breakfast meeting.
NATO is an alliance of 29 nations, and there are sometimes differences and different views and also some disagreements. And the gas pipeline from Russia to Germany is one issue where allies disagree. But the strength of NATO is that despite these differences, we have always been able to unite around our core task to protect and defend each other, because we understand that we are stronger together than apart. I think that 2 world wars and the Cold War taught us that we are stronger together than apart.
But how can you be together when a country is getting its energy from the person you want protection against or from the group that you want protection?
Because we understand that when we stand together, also when dealing with Russia, we are stronger. I think what we have seen is that...
No, you're just making Russia richer. Well, not dealing with Russia, you're making Russia richer.
Well, so I think that even during the Cold War, NATO allies were trading with Russia. Then there have been disagreements about what kind of trade arrangements we should go
I think trade is wonderful. I think energy is a whole different story. I think energy is a much different story than normal trade. And you have a country like Poland that won't accept the gas. You take a look at some of the countries, they won't accept it because they don't want to be captive to Russia. But Germany, as far as I'm concerned, is captive to Russia because it's getting so much of its energy from Russia. So we're supposed to protect Germany, but they're getting their energy from Russia. Explain that. And it can't be explained, you know that.
All right, thank you, press.
All right,
thank
everybody.
You.
Yes, get out.
Thank you, press. Thank you, press.
So the implication is that Poland doesn't want to be a slave to Russia, which I don't believe. I think they would love to get some gas. And by the way, if you hear, and this is a pro tip from the No Agenda show, if you want to propagate just a little bit of formula, if you hear anyone talking about the oil pipeline from Russia, you can then correct them and say it's a gas pipeline, natural gas, which is a mistake I've heard everywhere because people really don't read up on this stuff. And I think I know a bit about the pipelines, and the whole idea here for Trump is to protect American interests because we want to sell our gas. That's why we have.
Yeah, I think that's a false hope. But
well, it may be, but
the one thing that is interesting is that Trump, if you didn't notice, because I sure did, kept repeating the same mantra over and over and over. Germany's beholden to Russia, and they're getting a lot of money from Germany.
Yeah.
In some attempt, I think, to get the mainstream media to cover it.
Yeah. Well, the mainstream media has a problem though. Because how do you hate Russia and they've meddled with our democracy, they've ruined our country, our president is a puppet. Now Germany's okay, it's all right. It's Angela.
No, they've painted themselves into a corner.
Yeah,
it's horrible, and so we get crappy news coverage, and so. Man, were they happy to have those kids rescued in Thailand.
Oh yeah, and even better today,
Stormy Daniels arrested.
Yes, Stormy
Daniels arrested. Even though today we have the public testimony by Peter Strzok, one of the FBI.
That's the hot news for today.
Yeah, but they already had a closed door session. So as far as I'm concerned, this is just a script, and everyone's reading off questions that have already been answered. They just want to get the answers in public, and it's showing how fabulous you are. And I look at my question. Oh, I got him. Ooh, I nipped him there, didn't I? It's theater. I doubt if we'll learn anything, but you and I will both spend hours watching it after the show. I just don't think there's going to be much there.
I think there'll be a couple of good snidisms.
Oh, yeah, but that'll be about it. Euronews did give us a little rundown of the contributions from countries of the NATO alliance.
In 2014, NATO countries agreed to spend 2% of gross domestic product on defence every year up to 2024. The target is described as a guideline, and there's no penalty for not meeting it. In March, NATO released the figures for 2017, and only a handful of countries hit or bettered the 2% target. The US spent the most, at 3.57% of GDP. The second highest spender, perhaps surprisingly, was Greece. The UK came in at 2.12%. The member that spent the least was Luxembourg at 0.46%, well short of the target. Estonia and Poland have significantly increased their spending since the 2014 NATO summit, where members agreed the 2% target. That was in response to Russia's annexation of the Crimea region, which came after 25 years of cuts to European defence budgets. Nevertheless, European Council President Donald Tusk maintains that as a whole, the EU spends more on defence than China or Russia. In the next multi-annual financial framework, the European Commission proposes increasing defence and security spending to €27.5 billion. That would take up 2.4% of the total MFF budget. €13 billion of that would be dedicated to the European Defence Fund over the next 7 years. But no one knows if that will be enough to convince Donald Trump of Europe's commitment to NATO and defence.
So it would only take them €27.5 billion to be up to par across the Eurozone? Did I misunderstand that?
I couldn't follow it very well because his numbers weren't the same as the ones that I have in my head.
And I need to add that when President Obama was bitching about this on his trip and his NATO conference, and he had to sit down with Angela, it was right after it had been revealed that our NSA had been spying on Angela's cell phone. Remember, I think there was some kind of veiled apology even.
Yes, right.
Can you imagine if that had happened under a Trump presidency? Oh, my goodness.
Well, they did have an interesting commentary that was read on this. This is the PBS NewsHour, I believe, from Tusk.
Yeah,
Tusk.
Tusk. Donald Tusk.
Dick.
Tusk the Dick, yes.
Tusk the Dick. They had Kay Bailey Hutchinson on, who to me she's like an old political hack who's been in the government since I was a kid. It's like my mother, and she turns out to be a great Trump apologist. She's really good at handling it. But they play this Tusk versus Trump versus NATO clip from.
I wonder then how you respond to
No, I'm sorry. This is what. Stop. This is what's her name's show. The British woman that has
Christiana Anandpur.
That woman, yeah, she has a show now, and she does these interviews, and it's very much like a PBS show.
Is she in the UK when she does this? Or is she in the studio?
I have no idea where she is. I think she's in the United States.
Because she's been kind of pushed off. CNN pushed her off to...
Oh, they put her on PBS. They gave her a special slot.
Okay.
I wonder then how you respond to the European Commission president. This is Donald Tusk's message to President Trump today. First of all, dear America, appreciate your allies. After all, you don't have that many. And, dear Europe, spend more on your defense because everyone respects an ally that's well prepared and equipped. Obviously, the second part you're going to like and the president's going to like, but he's pretty much punching back because President Trump has treated these allies as mere transactional cogs in a wheel.
Well, I think that...
Hey, what is the EU talking about? Them's fighting words. We don't have many friends.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
What's up with that?
It was insulting. The guy's an insult. You're going to give our guy a bad time for being an insult artist. What about this Tusk character?
Yeah. President Trump actually has very great respect for our allies. He does think that there should be more because it is a European alliance along with North America. I think he's been plain about that. But, Christiane, I think that his goal is to make sure that NATO is the strongest umbrella for security for all of us. And I think that our allies realize that. And I know that the way he says things sometimes put people off, but he's just trying to make the point and make sure that they actually do it.
With all this bravado and the bravura going on, I kind of agree with her. I've been noticing this. It appears that a lot of Trump's message and a lot of his actions are very similar to previous presidents. I mean, really not that different. A little straightforward, or as we would say in Holland, kort door de bocht, kind of, shortcutting through the corner there just to get to the other side. But it's the way that he says it that has just upset everybody. it's truly his mannerisms. It's truly his, it's like he's like a cowboy movie come to life. It's scary. It's scary to people who have seen, because I think this is because I was watching Obama trying to find a clip of him talking about NATO. And, he would talk like this. And our allies, best allies, soothing. All across Europe. And it was okay. You could kind of flow into it. It wasn't hard to understand. He was completing his sentences, stuff that this president just is incapable of. But his message is kind of the same. He's a builder. People need to remember this. My God, this is like, how many wealthy guys have we not met, John? Who, when you meet him,
many.
Yeah. When you meet him, and I'm not taking rich, I'm talking wealthy. So you're in the billions of dollar range.
Yeah, we're talking about billionaires.
And they come across as, some are illiterate. I mean, I know rich guys who are actually illiterate who will hand me the phone and say, "Could you just type this message?" And it's just the way of the world. These very, very successful people, and we've met a number of them. Many of them are just...
I know many.
Yeah, they're brat. Well, can you give me an example, a good example? How about Hearst, for instance? He has some of that.
Hearst has a lot of that.
It's brash, it's just brash.
It's not as bad, though. It's not as bad. It starts as it ages on them, because Andy Hearst, which was Patty Hearst's dad, when this whole group of the Hearst Corporation went to the Media Lab, which was great for me. I was with Will, and the two of us snuck in with the executives, so we didn't have to sign all those non-disclosures. They won't show you anything at the Media Lab and let's just sign off on a bunch of stuff. So I didn't sign anything. So we got to see a lot of interesting stuff. And hear a lot of interesting pitches. They had pitches that they would throw at these newspaper guys and these publishers. And Randy was like, it was like he was just kind of like oblivious to things. It was like, oh, it reminds me of the story that the best way to describe most of these guys seems to me to be my description of the woman I saw at a military display in Pacific Heights and in one of the parks, and there's a Pacific Heights woman who walked over with her little poodle, or whatever was a trendy dog at the moment. She's totally a Pacific Heights type, loaded, obviously. And the guy, she's looking at one of the exhibits, and the guy, she says, "What is that thing?" He said, "It's a personnel mine." And she says, Oh, I have a friend who works in personnel. And then she walks off. That is what we're talking about.
Yeah,
kind of this dead.
But it's just a way that
own world thing. It's hard to explain.
But these guys in real estate, these guys in oil, but they're unsophisticated. They're unpolished. You got a lot of them in Texas, of course. And they're incredibly rich, but they're shrewd. They're shrewd, and they know business, the basic tenets of human behavior in a negotiation.
A lot of them.
Yeah, well, of course, not all of them, but
I mean, the Silicon Valley types. A lot of them were focused. They made their money by. Bill Gates is a good example. By being more focused than you and I could ever be, if we combined all our skills, they could focus to such an extreme that they can really make things happen, but they don't. Beyond that, it's like, I remember I went to a baseball game once with Bill Gates and had to explain a hit and run to him, and it was like what? It was
right.
It wasn't easy, by the way, to explain it.
So, but bottom line is that Trump is very simple in his thinking, and I think that resonates. People at home can understand what he's saying. Wait a minute. So these guys are giving billions of dollars to Russia, and then they're going to give even more with the gas they're buying from them. They're cutting out the so-called, our buddies there in Ukraine and Poland, or let's just say Ukraine is the most important one because that was so important. Remember, it was so important for the Russian gas. And meanwhile, these guys aren't pulling their weight. I mean, and Trump directly talks to the taxpayer. It's unfair to the taxpayers. Hey, I sit at home and go, yeah, what's up with that? It's still kind of the same thing. And this summit, but also the G7, it's the same. Normally, everyone goes there, has a couple of drinks, has some tea, they do their photos, and then they release the communique. We're all going to work together. We're going to do much better. Then Trump just doesn't see the benefit of that.
Yeah, he doesn't.
He doesn't. So I'm enjoying it. They're painted it into a corner.
Well, the problem is nobody's getting this information. The fact that he's trying to get it out, but they're not going to pick it up.
I don't think so either, because they don't know what to do with it.
Here's the summary of the whole Trump experience in NATO was that one photo which I had in the newsletter.
Which you can take, depending on the dimension you're in, you can say, wow, everybody's going this way and Trump is a moron, he's looking the other way. Or you can say, now that's a guy who's looking at other opportunities. Or building code violations, as you said in the newsletter.
Yeah, that's my punchline.
That was a good joke. That was good. What's the second tooth clip?
Let's play it.
Now, Christian, I served with other presidents, and they all said the same thing. I think President Trump is saying it in a way that they are now remembering and really turning on the dime and doing better.
Mm-hmm. Look, I understand, and many U.S. presidents and leaders have complained, and they want that 2%. Obviously, the Europeans do things that complement U.S. participation in the U.S. contribution. But here's the thing. The tone is what is creating existential angst amongst your...
Oh, there it is. She's saying it for me. It's the tone. Oh, he's not saying it right.
The tone is what is creating existential angst amongst your NATO allies. Donald Tusk, again, basically has said that the tone of President Trump, his language meant that allies could no longer assume that NATO will endure. Now, that might sound alarmist, but I'm going to play you, again, a much hackneyed soundbite. President Trump's initial first ever comment.
What does this mean? A much hackneyed soundbite?
Yeah, she uses that word. It's interesting when I heard it the first time, because what it means is that it's been beaten to death. Or a cliche. It's just something that's been used a lot over and over and over again, like the network does. They always keep throwing stuff in.
Well, let's pay attention to it, because that's a milieu type of word. We can figure out where she belongs, who she belongs to. I think we should hear that word more often.
Well, that's an interesting idea to think that's a milieu term. It could be.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Could no longer assume that NATO will endure. Now, that might sound alarmist, but I'm going to play you, again, a much hackneyed soundbite. President Trump's initial first ever comments in public on NATO were not heartening to those who believe in the alliance. Listen to this for a second.
NATO is obsolete. It was 67 years, or it's over 60 years old. It is many countries, doesn't cover terrorism, okay? It covers the Soviet Union, which is no longer in existence. And NATO has to either be rejiggered, changed for the better. I'm not saying the other thing is bad about NATO. We're paying too much. We're spending a tremendous billions and billions of dollars on NATO.
So there are a lot of thoughts in that statement, but you can see that that those initial comments are still the comments of the president, and it does destabilize the allies. They're kind of concerned about it because, you talk about the Wales summit, and indeed in 2014 there was a pledge to up the payments. Every single one, except a couple, have upped their payments to nearly 2%.
Now, she's conflating two different things, because I recall this very well. Trump said NATO is outdated and specifically stated that it was because they do not address terrorism or cyber. And since then, we now have NATO with, I guess, an office somewhere that deals with terrorism, and they probably have some dude in the basement named Ben who's in charge of cyber. But that's what he was talking about initially. He said,
Well, that was the clip from the initial discussion.
Yes.
He did specifically discuss the fact that, and I think this is what she's referring to, the fact that we're paying too much.
Yeah.
We're getting robbed.
Well, we're paying more than our fair share.
According to the numbers, it's way up there.
Yeah.
And we have a bigger GDP, and it's a percentage thing. That's the thing that kind of gets me. If it was a flat fee, I don't see how it should be a function of the GDP.
Right. Well, what do you think about this in general? Can we just get rid of it? Is NATO really that important? Just seems like another big money sink.
I think he was hinting at that. But then again, if you remember the McMaster's speech that we had that I clipped, where he discussed how the world works in one of his lectures, which was, I thought, the most fascinating thing ever, he mentions that the way the world works at the moment is that we're the big dog and that we have to support all these things and we have to keep these things going because it's all part of the world order as it exists and how we're running things.
Right.
So it's not like you can just willy-nilly start changing things. According to McMaster, he said you could do whatever. I mean, if we wanted to, we could change things. But right now, the way it works is this way, and NATO's part of that.
Well,
so,
but really, all it is just an excuse for us to be the boss of everybody. I mean,
well, that's the way the system works right now. That's what keeps That's the only reason. That and the dollar being the reserve currency that people keep wanting. People want to scuttle this, by the way. That's what what McMaster described. But that's the only reason that we can be $100 trillion in debt to the world, and we can still be living prosperously and growing fruit and vegetables and having the time of our lives, pretty much.
Speak for yourself.
It's not like you're not living in Austin in a depressed area where everybody's like, well, it's not.
Come to the streets of downtown Austin. I will show you.
There's a lot. Well, there's some errors in judgment the way it's being handled. That's for sure. But I would say that you could probably put down the Democratic Party, and they're, oh my God, we can't offend anybody. Don't let him poop. Don't say anything. Kind of attitude about things.
Let him poop. Don't say anything. Yeah, I think that's actually a city ordinance. It's the let him poop. Don't say anything ordinance. We haven't seen the pooping yet. Only the urination. We haven't.
It's coming.
Poop is coming. Poop in our future. Yeah. Oh, well, that was. I think that we often don't even say, well, what the hell is this? I mean, yeah, okay. It's to show that we're top dog and we have our bases everywhere. And I guess it's the way the world works.
And that's why we have these bases everywhere. It's like just a reminder. Hey,
just so you know, we're around.
We have a base in your country. You want to just, or we have a base right outside your country, or we got a drone headquarters in your country or outside your country. I mean, it's ridiculous if you look at it.
Yeah.
But
it's the way
if
it
you want
is.
to do things the way we do it, it's the way things are, and we're living the life of Riley. Nobody wants to appreciate that.
I'm not complaining. Here was the response from Scandinavia.
Despite that criticism from Donald Trump, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is defending Canada's military spending.
Canada will continue to step up. We've been part of every single NATO mission since the very beginnings of NATO. We will continue to be there with effective and performing troops and supports to demonstrate our continued unflinching support for the transatlantic alliance.
Trudeau spent the day in Latvia, where he formally announced that Canada will extend its mission in the country by another 4 years. It also means another 85 troops, bringing the total in the region to 540. He visited some of those soldiers today. Trudeau will head to Belgium for the NATO summit next. Trump has been calling for all NATO countries to pay 2% of their GDP towards military spending. For Canada, that would mean nearly doubling the defense budget, and the Prime Minister says Ottawa has no plans to do so.
Oh. They have no plans to do so.
He starts off as he's a big supporter, but he won't give the money that they agreed to.
Yeah.
These guys bugs me.
There's another talking point there is that, everybody sent their troops, which you can see in two different ways, in multiple dimensions. All other countries sent their troops when we were fighting evil Saddam Hussein. Oops, wrong guy. In Iraq. But, you can also see it as, they didn't feel like paying any, so they just sent some children. Here. We're good, right? That's the way I see it. It's like, hey, we sent some kids over and get blowed up.
So we had there was an incident with that got, unfortunately, it was produced. This clip was produced, and it's and I have to kind of kind of I had to cut it way down because it was just not usable. And it was Trudeau. The clip's called "Blasting Trudeau." It's Trudeau at at some sort of a, what do you call them, town hall, and he this veteran's up there, no legs, and he's standing on these things and bitching about the fact that he can't get his compensation from the Veterans Affairs after the government promised they're going to do nothing but good things for them, and everybody seems to be in Canada seems to be upset about the fact that they can't get their money. There's been a bunch of ex-ISIS people or so.
I've seen this story.
Yeah, some ex-ISIS guy got $10 million of compensation for being called a name something.
It's from a different fund, you see. It's a different piggy bank. Yes.
And so this guy's up there bitching. Now, what I want you're going to hear the end of this guy's complaining, which went on for a while. And then you're going to hear Trudeau. And I realized that Trudeau, in the last clip you played, and Obama to some extent, they all sound like Big Nurse from One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Like they're talking to insane people.
So again, my question is, what veterans were you talking about? Was it the ones that fought for the freedoms and values that you so proudly boast about, or was it the ones who fought against? Because honestly, Mr. Prime Minister, I was prepared to be injured in the line of duty when I joined the military. Nobody forced me to join the military.
I really like the piano, John. It's really working for me. It's just clutching at my heartstrings.
I said I apologize for that before the clip. People that produce these clips,
I know,
and then decide that for some reason they think it's cool to do. I don't think you should do that on any show.
No, it ruins.
Even if you're doing Frontline.
Yeah, so I do want to point it out. That it makes a difference when you hear it with the piano, people.
I was prepared to be killed in action. What I wasn't prepared for, Mr. Prime Minister.
Stop. This actually, maybe this was a press conference at Nordstrom's. Is that possible?
It's funny because I was in Nordstrom's the other day. Yes, it's very possible.
Piano?
Yeah, just one of those self-playing pianos.
Oh, they're cheap, and they've gone cheap.
I was prepared to be killed in action. What I wasn't prepared for, Mr. Prime Minister, is Canada turning its back on me. So which veteran was it that you were talking about?
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your passion and your strength and being here today to share this justifiable frustration and anger on a couple of elements you brought up. And first of all, why are we still fighting against certain veterans groups in court? Because they are asking for more than we are able to give right now. They are asking for more than we... Well, no. Hang on. You're asking for honest answers.
Wow. Huh.
Yeah, they turned on him.
Yeah, they sure did. Don't have enough money right now. That's not very satisfying.
No, it's really pissed for, especially when this $10 million thing distribution to these ex-ISIS guys. I mean, come on. It's very strange.
So that bit at the end, that's where you think it was like One Flew?
Yes, when he talks like Big Nurse on the Nurse Ratchet or whatever her name is, Ratchet, I can't remember her name. Yeah. And she always said, now you should be more calm. You shouldn't act this way because
you're right. Well, that is
bad things can happen.
Yes, and that's what everybody wants to hear. That is what makes us feel good.
Well, that's apparently what they want to hear. They don't like the way Trump presents things, that's for sure. But you brought this up earlier when you talked about Obama's very slow and calculated way of saying anything.
Yes.
And I'd say Hillary fell into that category. I used to always say this. People say, oh, she's such a wonderful speaker. You listen to Hillary in her normal speaking pattern, it's word at a time as though you're a 3-year-old.
Yeah.
So I think we made our point.
Yes. Yeah, I don't think there's much left to say. Let's just see what happens. I mean, nothing probably. I
think there's still the possibility that big blimp can be, shot down.
That would still be. Now, I would really, really appreciate that. That would be very funny. That would be footage of the year.
And how can anyone resist? This is what gets me. If the British public, especially the Londoners, can't find a way to pop that thing, they really are. They've lost it.
Well, with that, I'd like to thank you for your courage and say in the morning to you, John C., where the C stands for controlling the drone for the blimp, Dvorak.
Well, in the morning to you, Mr. Adam Curry. Excuse me. I can't find my tube. In the morning to all ships at sea, boots on the ground, feet in the air, subs in the water, all the dames and nights out there.
Yes, in the morning to everybody in the troll room there at noagendastream.com. Helping me out, as usual. I'm always following the troll room as we do the show live on Thursday and Sunday. It's often extremely helpful and sometimes very annoying, but that's what, the trolls. And I also want to say in the morning to Mike Riley, and he brought us the artwork for episode 1049. The title of that episode, the previous one, was Rent Men. And there was a lot of good artwork, and we had some choices to make. We could only choose one, of course, for the art, but several are contenders for newsletters and other uses. This was the map of the mall.
Yes, it was a tough decision because there was a couple of the best. Technically, I thought was the earplugs, whatever they call them.
The earbuds, yeah.
Yeah, it was because it related to some of the aspects of the show, and it's really pretty well done. But we could probably find a use for that someplace else. The mall art was one shot. If we weren't going to use it,
right, we wouldn't use it again.
We were never going to use it. But
that's often a consideration.
And it was funny. It had humor in it.
Yeah.
And it was funnier than the other art.
Yeah, then there were some Al-Shabaab guys with plastic bags that didn't quite work. We liked the marijuana cigarette package made in Canada. That was funny.
I like the Facebook
cigarettes. That was also good. It's hard to do. There's so much good art. It really is.
It's either when it rains, it pours.
It's true.
We've had many of show where there is nothing. And nobody gets a clue, and we have to go back and dig around to find some evergreen art, which coincidentally matches the show.
Right.
And or we have to the third fallback, which is the toughest one, is where we just pick an evergreen piece that is generic, just says no agenda on it or something like that, and we just use that. But we try to avoid that particular fallback.
But it is a part of our Value for Value network, our system that we've built up over the years, and we really appreciate Mike's work and all of the artists who upload to noagendaartgenerator.com. I think there's now 17,000 pieces of art. Just
indeed
quite a lot of artwork in there. A lot been created.
All right, so let's thank a few people. We had a very strange kind of a donation day. It's like nobody came in at an executive producer level, so we have the top associate executive producer level that gets boosted, and coincidentally, there's two of them, so it's a tie.
With your favorite number, so they both become executive producers then.
Well, unless we have a tiebreaker in place, which we don't. I was thinking by the date or we don't have a tiebreaker. So we have to put them. I think we had to boost them both.
Okay.
So they got lucky. We got lucky guys here. These are two lucky guys. Peter Tangstrom in the Netherlands, 23456. He's number one. He says, thanks for watching all the news so I don't have to. No jingles, no karma. 3 shows and donations ago, I passed the threshold to finally qualify for my seat at the round table. I celebrated with an extra associate producership. While my new title came through, I was mistakenly held for Sir... Oh, that's funny. Held for Sir Snake.
Sir Pete Snakes?
Peter Snakes.
Yes, yeah.
I'm however a new knight. Would love a pat on the shoulder with your blades, providing John's blade doesn't get stuck.
It's always stuck.
It was because you keep going, hey, where's your blade?
Where's your blade? Yeah, get your blade.
Looking forward to the ceremony. I apologize for any unclear messaging that might have caused this. He's Peter Tangstrom, and he'd like to be known as Sir Pete of the High Power Hammerheads.
Okay, I've noted that, and we will see. He's the only knighting today, so we'll see him later at the round table. And thank you very much, Peter. Soon to be Sir Pete.
Also executive producer.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Sir Cal of the Lavender Blossoms, our buddy that makes the lavender cream.
Mm-hmm.
Lavender
everything.
CBD,
lavender, CBD, THC, LMNOP. It's all good there at lavenderblossoms.org.
23456. ITM Amigos, please give me some travel karma as I'm traveling south to Gatlinburg, Tennessee for a reunion with my old Marine Corps brothers.
Oh.
We have a lot of Marines that listen to this show, too, which is kind of interesting. So we got Marines, Eagle Scouts, Hams, dude's named Ben. Very interesting group.
Yeah, and also everyone has a different opinion, and not all, walking lockstep with one particular group or the other. I got a long note from one of our producers. And
the generalities you can make about the women. We have a lot of women listeners.
Yeah. But, it's like you guys were reading notes from Eagle Scouts, and, remember it was the girls and the boy and coming into the Boy Scouts of America? And so, there were all kinds of opinions. And I guess one opinion was, well, this, I don't agree with it. Very Christian, don't like the possibility of homosexuality going on. And we just read the note, and we didn't comment on it. And that was enough for this producer to say, she said, well, you guys are so out of touch. What is wrong with you? I'm like, no, you don't. Just because you're reading a note, I'm not giving an opinion. What? Huh?
Just reading a note. Oh, we out of touch.
Yeah. Well,
Anyway, he goes on to say.
Anyway.
So let's read our Marine's note here, Sir Cal. 9-hour drive to Gatlinburg as he's driving. It goes 3 no agenda episodes, no problem.
Yes, and you know exactly how far along you are based upon the end of the show. Oh, well, I got another 3 hours to go. Had 2 shows down.
I wish this drive was longer.
Yeah, said no one ever except a no agenda producer.
Sir Knives of the Providence Plantation comes in with $230.33. I had already been planning to donate, he writes, in celebration of my upcoming 30th birthday on Friday. I think he's got a birthday list. But when my Black Knight edition of The Ring came in on Monday, I felt it must be a sign I needed to shell out a bit more for the podcast that gets me through the week. So I settled on $230.33. $200 for the producer credit, $30 for my turning 30, and 33 cents, well, because it's 33. On the subject of the producer credit, I would like to request that it and all donations credit for knighthood go to my wonderful smoking hot wife, Steph Butters Whitehead.
Mm-hmm.
She wants one of those rings herself.
All right.
After the huge amount of effort, this is just an accounting thing. You can do this. It's not a problem. Anyone can do this. After the huge amount of effort and time she's put in toward making my 30th birthday special, it is the least I can do for her. The weekly brunch she makes while we listen to the Sunday live stream is a high point of my week, and I've discovered that the only thing better than the best podcast in the universe is sharing it with someone you love.
Yes, and especially if they like it too.
Yes.
If they don't like it too,
that's a prerequisite.
Yeah, question the relationship, because you could run into some basic.
Why are you listening to these two goofballs? I would like to humbly request a Trump Space Force, Steph's recent favorite, and some karma to balance out turning 30 on Friday the 13th.
Huh.
You guys are both terrific. We can't thank you enough for the service you provide. Keep up the great work.
Respectfully, Sir Knives of the Providence Plantations. Yes, of course we can do that for you.
Space Force.
Space Force.
You've got karma.
And I do need to hand out a karma to Cal there. Because in all the talking I did, I forgot to give Sir Cal of Lavender Blossoms
Sir Cal.
his
Space Force.
Space Force.
You've got karma.
Space Force.
Space Force. Sir Matthew, the Mapper, 200. He'll be our last associate executive producer. Le Matin. For the last 5 years, you've been my source of entertainment and sanity. The last shows in the past month were dynamite. This donation is also to ask for jobs karma. I've been searching for a new job, and I think it might be have found what I want. To boost my chances, some jobs karma would be highly appreciated. For jingles, jobs, obviously, and Trudeau single clap. That's the jingle file name.
Yeah, I'm looking for it, but that's what he thinks.
A single underline clap.
Keep going.
As always, thank you for your courage in ITM. That would be our group of producers and executive producers.
I wish I had it for him, but I just don't think that we have it anymore. I don't know what happened. I know what he's talking about because I'm pretty sure he sent it to me and somehow didn't get into the system. Let me see. Trudeau, maybe. Trudeau clap.
He threw it out.
Yeah, I think it was so poor. It was so hard to hear, is what I recall. No, we don't have it. I'm sorry.
Well, I don't remember any of it. So.
I wish I could compensate somehow.
Send us another copy of the thing and we'll just play it gratuitously.
Yeah. Well, we can always do one of our favorites and then we'll do a jobs. Please clap.
Jobs, 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 and jobs. Let's vote for jobs.
You've got karma.
And that's Space Force. Is that it? That's it? We're done?
Yeah, I said it was the end.
Oh, man. Okay, well, so we have 2 by default executive producers. Very nice. Looks good on the credits. And it'll look great on your business card. Also, if you're an associate executive producer, that's not too shabby at all. You can say proudly that you produced episode 1050 of the best podcast in the universe, the No Agenda Show. John and I will gladly vouch for you. Put it anywhere where credits are accepted. And thank you. For keeping the show on the air, so to speak, and look forward to thanking more people who came in and supported the show in our second donation segment. And please remember that we do have another show coming up on Sunday.
Dvorak.org/NA.
I thought you were going to say Space Force. Hey, go Space out Force. There. Tell everybody that Space Force.
Our formula is this. We go out, we hit people in the mouth.
Space Force.
Order. Shut up, slave. Space Force.
Yes.
I don't know why it's so funny. Well, talking about funny, I do have I went and dug through the archives.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody sent me a what do you call it, auto-tune version of this guy, this foamer that we had him on, and I watched the thing again because right after the auto-tune version, there was the original, which is funny. The auto-tune thing wasn't.
Wait. What's a foamer? Who's a foamer?
A foamer's a railroad nut.
Oh, yes, we've talked about this. Okay, who goes out on the tracks and records binaural stereophonic trains going by?
That's what he does.
Okay,
and you have to you will remember this when you hear it, and this is and I also have an ISO for later.
Okay.
But this is the complete clip. This is a 2-minute clip. It's just, I'm telling you, every time I hear this, I am laughing, literally laughing and trying to catch my breath.
Okay. I've been waiting for this moment for months, and it's finally here. I'm finally going to get a heritage unit on camera. Yeah! All right. Look at that, a 1953 E8. Woo-hoo! Oh, yeah, listen to that bell. Yeah, listen to that bell. Oh, take a look at that. Oh, my God! Woo! Listen to that horn! Oh, my God! Oh, she's beautiful! She is beautiful, yeah! All right! Oh, my... Oh, no, it's a BL2, too! Oh, the SNC 52! Oh, my God! Oh, we're going to watch this. Oh, this is special. This is special. Oh, that horn gives me the chills. Oh, and the chills have absolutely nothing to do with how cold it is here. Oh, but that doesn't stop a foamer. Oh, especially when it comes to heritage equipment. Oh, this is fantastic. Oh, my goodness. Look at that. Blue and gray. Oh, coupled to the Iowa Pacific. Number 518. Woo-hoo! Woo! Listen to that horn. Oh, that's fantastic. Oh, my gosh. Look at that. All right. Oh. Yeah, I wonder who T.C. Durant is. Oh, well. This is just awesome. I've been waiting for this for months. Look at that. Illinois Central livery. Right here in North Creek. That is awesome.
I am somewhat speechless.
This guy's having an orgasm.
Yeah, well, you're not.
If you listen to the whole thing as a sexual thing, he has an orgasm and then kind of then he's done. It's unbelievable.
Well, you're not far from it with your Zephyr obsession.
A foamer.
I mean,
yeah.
Well, come on, admit it. You're a foamer. Oh, my God. Listen to that horn. Oh, my God. Nah, you love that stuff.
You can play the ISO to know what it is, because I think this would be a good way to end the show.
Oh, my God. Listen to that horn.
Okay. You win. I had an ISO, but you totally win. Absolutely. You can have it. No problem. Man, oh, man. Oh, John. I have the device. The one I've been looking for. The ultimate. I finally, because, I've been looking for a phone that is modern, can do 4G, but doesn't have apps and the whole tracking infrastructure.
We've all followed your exploits with bated breath.
Okay. It is the Kyocera Dura XV LTE. Thanks to John in Lee Valley, Pennsylvania, who turned me on to this. Unbelievable. This is it's a modern flip phone.
Hold on a second. Let me write this down.
You got to pull. You're going to want this phone, and in fact, I am using it in the house more than my iPhone.
Kyocera what?
Dura XV LTE. So it's an LTE that has LTE radio in it. It's a flip phone, but it's a military grade. It has pass certification. You can run a tank over it. You can throw it in the drink for 6 hours.
Does it weigh a ton? What is it?
It fits so comfortably in your hand. It's heavy-ish, but it's like it. And I realize how dumb a smartphone is for handling. And when you hold on to this, it's like, oh, you can swing this around. You don't have to worry about it. It's not going to fall out of your hand. But here's what's beautiful about it. Is it has a fully HTML5 compliant browser. It even does the noagendasocial.com, which is like all kinds of jacked up JavaScript. And
so this thing is waterproof.
Waterproof, yes, proof. It does IMAP email. It's fast. It's blazingly fast. So it really doesn't do more than a 5 megapixel camera. It doesn't do much more than browser, which you can pretty much do everything that you need to do. Of course, text messaging.
It's got a hole in it so you can see the screen through the...
No, it has a second screen on the front, old school.
Oh, it's 2 screens.
Yeah, the screen on the front gives you like little notifications.
It's like a time. It's got the time. So you can flip it open to see what time it is. But very rugged looking. It looks like it looks mil-spec.
Yeah, the only thing that, of course, is missing is a QWERTY keyboard, because then I'd really be happy. But I found that it has really oversized buttons. It's meant also for if you're climbing Mount Everest, then you can still tap something out, which I now find to be a feature, because the phone is so fast, it does things so well that now I'm actually like, well, I'm not going to send this text message now because I have to kind of concentrate on typing it out, either with the the click 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 click, or with the predictive text, whatever it's called.
Well, there's $65 on Amazon.
I'm telling you, it's under $100. Thing is, the battery life is nothing like a Nokia. It's not 5 days, but it'll certainly do 2 days with just regular use. I am blown away by this. YouTube videos, plays them. I got your newsletter the other day. Opened it up. It opened up in some kind of editing software, which you can't find if you just say, if you're looking to open up the editing software. But when I clicked on your Word doc, in the email program, it opened up. I could edit it perfect. It's an it's a great phone, and it does everything you need to do, except it doesn't distract you. It's a very pro sanity type device, and I know that the tracking is to a minimum because I'm getting ads. When I'm looking at any website just trolling around, and it's all location-based stuff. So, hey, Austin. So, of course, they can still find my location. That's not that hard to do. And it's
Does it have a GPS in it?
It may. Yes, it does. It's turned off. There's no maps, though.
Well, what's good is GPS without the maps?
I have a feeling. I think this phone was made exclusively for AT&T originally, and they had an app infrastructure, so you could download a media center and some kind of mapping thing, and that's no longer exists. So I'm not on AT&T, so I don't have access to it anyway.
Now, I'm looking at the one here. It says it's the Dura XV, and it's a Verizon phone. Do they have GSM?
Yes, I have. This is a GSM, unlocked GSM.
Okay.
But it has an AT&T logo on it, and I'm using it on T-Mobile. So.
Yeah, you're probably right. It's probably surplus.
Yeah. Oh, and it's totally surplus. But it's so fast, yet it's slow enough that you don't get obsessed with your phone. You're like, and the screen is just small enough that it's like I can look at some stuff for a little bit and I'm done. It's really working against all of your instincts to want to do more, and it kind of slows you down, but not where it counts, which is rendering a web page, getting your email, opening a picture, taking a picture. Very happy with that device. I'm over the E71 hands down, in particular because it has a future. And I think there may be some low-level tracking stuff because I think it's some custom weird version of Android 4 or something that's under the hood. I'm not quite sure exactly. It was all custom. They did a lot of work. It's really
cool to have a flip phone.
And you know what? The adults under 40, as we now call them, they love it. Like, oh, cool. And they flip it open. Oh, I had one of these. Yeah, these are great. And they like it, like, oh yeah, I remember it's so fun to rage hang up on someone just by snapping the lid shut, like, screw you. Boom, done. And this one, the lid actually stays on. The lid doesn't fly off because it's made of it's rubber. It's fantastic. Great device.
All right.
Little fat in the pocket. Little
tip.
Fat. Yes, that's a real tip. Real tip. Let me see. Do I have anything in our OT? I don't really have a lot of OTG stuff. That was really it. Except that there is some question now. Facebook is trying to figure out how they influence elections. And there's a story in the Wall Street Journal, this is over the weekend, that they've given researchers full access for election studies. And this new group of academics who get, I think they're talking about 2.2 billion records. Sounds like a lot. Let me see. What do you have here? What is the name of this? Yeah, okay. Social Science One is the name of the group. Formed earlier this year with backing from nonprofits, including the John S. and James L. Knight Foundation and the Charles Koch Foundation. And they have $25 million they're giving away to researchers who have proposals for understanding how social media, specifically Facebook, influences or can be used to influence elections. But in the meantime, they've given these jabronis everyone's data, which I find rather...
Well, I mean, the first thing that comes to my mind, is I don't think that Facebook necessarily sways elections.
Well, no, that's why the whole thing is ridiculous. I mean, what are they thinking?
Yeah. I think it definitely gets groups riled up.
No, someone just put together a money-making scheme, and once again, we're not in it.
Yeah, I know. We got to get in one of these deals. Oh, well.
Yeah.
Anybody out there can do good grant writing. That's what we need. We get a grantsmanship guy, because that's what this is all about. It's kind of a combination of a grant and a proposal.
Yeah.
Because the grant writers can do that kind of work.
Anyway,
there's a trick to it.
I did want to mention that, whereas, I'm particularly concerned, well, I kind of gave up on, what the government is spying on. You can only protect yourself so much. But what technology is doing, it's made a change in human behavior, which is very troubling. And there's a story that I came across. I don't know if you saw this. It was a big Twitter thread. this guy and a gal on the flight, and some Southern lady asked to switch seats. Some like sweet Southern lady with a drawl. Can I switch seats so she could be next to her boyfriend or whatever it was? And so anyway, so this other couple who swapped seats. Now they're sitting behind these two people, and the entire flight they're taking pictures of them from behind, or sneaky, like walking up the aisle and taking a little picture, and they're documenting in a tweet stream this romance that they're like, oh, it's a romance, it's coming together, and maybe we had something to do with it. And everyone's like, oh, this is so great. It's the best thing on Twitter. And oh, this is fabulous. And I'm like, you are invading these people's privacy. And everyone's cheering it on. It was bizarre.
Yeah, that kind of thing is kind of bizarre. And it does happen. And it is an invasion of privacy. And it gets cheered on. You're right. It's something that is a fundamental change, I think. I could be wrong. But I think it's a fundamental change.
But also, they're completely just creating a story or a narrative, if you will, about these two people, which is very much in line. And we've talked about this. This is very much in line with how I think Instagram works. You see a picture, and then you see, oh, we have a baby, and then the next picture is, the baby's 2 months old, and all that space in between, you build up with happy story, happy thoughts. Oh, these people are so fun. And we've created this innate ability to really enhance our storytelling capability based on just, simple snapshots and just make stuff up. And it fits, it's like, oh, yeah, I feel good about that. It fits. The story sounds right. Give me more. It's a very odd thing, but it's cultural. It's cultural. And we're all in. And I was kind of horrified. Like, well,
isn't this just an expression of something that already exists and was being suffocated? Maybe it wasn't getting enough attention, and all it's done is brought it to the fore. But it's always been within the system and hasn't changed anything. Is that possible?
Possible, but what changed? What changed is that you can share it with the entire world. That's a technological change, and not necessarily a good one.
Well, I would argue just the opposite.
Okay,
it's a good thing.
Why?
Because this is what people want. This is part of the community of mankind.
Oh, okay. No, it's not like we can stop it. It's what's going. I'm cognizant of this because when I was a celebrity, it was it was odd because you'd never want to be caught with your cellulite out. You're aware that people are observing you and taking photos of you and doing that secretly and doing all kinds of, like surveillance type things, but you're very aware of it, and you get these filters and you build that up, but it's not necessarily a nice way to live. Thinking about it.
I would think it's a terrible way to live.
That's the life of a celebrity. That's why you go live in a gated mansion.
Yeah.
So, of course, I don't need that anymore. Now it's just,
you loved it.
I'm just one shopping cart away from being like the homeless guy on 2nd Street.
Well, that would get you back on the top of the news.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, because, another guy's broke. Homeless. Adam Curry's now homeless.
Yeah.
I tried to be a podcaster, he said.
VH1 behind the music. Whatever happened to
Adam Curry, former podcaster.
After dropping to level of podcaster.
How did the podcast go south? We lost all of our support.
No.
People were contributing money, and then they stopped.
Here's Jordan Peterson talking about the podcast. I wish it was specifically about ours. But when I heard him say this, I was like, oh, yeah, I forgot. Yeah, hell yeah. Yes.
Videos is that you can't do anything else while you're doing them, right? When you're reading. When you're watching a video, you can be distracted, but you have to pay attention to the video. But if you're listening to a podcast, you can be driving a forklift or a long-haul truck, or you can be exercising or doing the dishes. And so what that means is that podcasts free up, say, 2 hours a day for people to engage in educational activities that they wouldn't otherwise be able to engage in, and that's about 1/8 of people's lives. So podcasts hand people 1/8 of their life back to engage in high-level education. So then I thought, well, people actually want to do this. There's a massive market for high-level intellectual engagement that's much deeper and and more desperate, let's say, than anyone suspected. I think one of the things I've realized in the last couple of days as I've been thinking this through is that the narrow bandwidth of TV has made us think we're stupider than we are. And so people have a real hunger for deep intellectual dialogue, and that can be met with these new technologies, and that has revolutionary significance, and that's starting to unfold.
You're welcome. Woohoo! You're ever so welcome. Let's put this to the test, shall we? He says well, let me put this to the test for a second. Yeah. He says that the bandwidth of television has become so narrow that people are just clamoring for something intellectual. And I would say that to a degree, the No Agenda Show is intellectual. At least we're challenging our intellect, which is a challenge by itself.
Challenging the way people look at things.
Let's have a quick, just a litmus test. Let's see what's new on television then.
Station is coming to TLC.
What I do isn't just pimple popping.
I don't want to be a hunchback.
I'm changing people's lives.
Oh my gosh.
Dr. Pimple Popper begins Wednesday at 10 on TLC.
Yes, I've heard about this show. And I think Jay was talking about it, and I said, I thought she was just putting me on.
No.
And I said, no, it's a real show, and she pops blackheads is the whole show.
Jeez.
I said, what are you no.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what goes on. It's a show that is so inane that now television because there's someone popping blackheads. I mean to tell you.
Yeah.
By the way, we do have a meetup coming up in Toronto. Now, I won't be there.
I have the meetups on the list actually. But if you want to talk about them, I have the info here. The 19th.
But the Toronto meetup, the reason I'm saying that is because Jordan Peterson will be in front of his lecture.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Okay, good.
Right across the street, and they're going to try to get Peterson to come to the
meetup. Well, somebody record him saying something nice about the No Agenda Show, or something not nice. That's either way, just something. Just have him say in the morning, please.
Yeah, in the morning for the No Agenda Show.
Let's see.
We should start collecting those clips like they used to do on old time radio.
Mm.
You know, these little spots.
Yeah,
little spots.
Let's. I had dinner with the former New York banker, and I had the opportunity to ask him specifically about Deutsche Bank and the money to Trump. And this came from a meme, which I don't know if it's here today. These things are here today, gone tomorrow. That if the Democrats win the House, then Maxine Waters becomes the chair of some oversight committee, and then she has the power to subpoena the Deutsche Bank records. That'll show him. So, reason for me to ask the former New York banker what deals and he knows very well. Are you interested in hearing what deals Trump did with Deutsche Bank?
He knows?
Yes.
Go for it.
Yes, he knows exactly for a number of reasons.
Space Force.
Space Force is the main reason. There was one loan and one loan only ever, and it was a small loan, he said, about $100 million or so. During the time that the loan was outstanding, he sued Deutsche Bank twice, which to them was just, cost of doing business with Trump. They thought it was funny. And he says that Deutsche Bank made a lot of money. They did very well on that loan. They were very happy. And that was the only time they did any money with him. So that's it. One time only. And
that stinks.
And I think it was for the Chicago Tower. Chicago. But no, it doesn't stink. No,
well, I mean, it stinks if you're like trying to get Trump on some Trump charges.
Yes, exactly. So everyone's like, Deutsche Bank. Yes. Oh, that's where all the money is. That's where the Russian money came in. No. And the New York banker, he would be honest with me. He'd say, something fishy going on. He may not tell me exactly, but he was very clear. So, no, it's total horseshit.
Well, good. I hope Maxine calls him up to testify.
Yeah. The New York banker. Oh, boy.
Well, that was interesting. I did have one clip that should have played earlier when we were talking about Brexit. Mm-hmm. It was Farage kind of bitching and moaning about the whole thing going south, because I think he's finally coming to the realization that he's the one really behind all this. And I want to mention to people that haven't listened to the show for a long time, we were on to Farage as a mover and shaker
years,
way before anybody.
Yeah, in fact, what did we get most of the time from our British producers? Yeah. No, man, no, he's a racist. He's a horrible. He's a dick. He's Nazi.
You guys are wrong. Yeah. He's a dick.
No
he's
good.
Not going to amount to anything.
No one cares about him. He's marginalized. Yeah, we do identify the hits. We pick the hits here on the No Agenda Show. Let's listen to this.
Mrs. May, if you believe what you're told, is about to take us down a route where effectively we would stay inside the single market for goods. That's the bit, of course, where they sell us a lot more than we sell them. The whole thing would be the most extraordinary sellout. It would be Brexit in name only. We'd become like Norway, but without even having the fish. So that's why the Eurosceptics are meeting. They're planning a fight back, but will they really have the guts to do what's necessary? And I think, frankly, if she's prepared to give in to this extent, what is actually necessary is to get rid of her. To work on the fact that over the course of August, Monsieur Barnier won't be negotiating. He'll be on a Mediterranean beach somewhere. And to find a new leader to come back and try and save the Brexit talks. We will see. Nothing will come out. Tomorrow, we'll start to get leaked reports, maybe late tomorrow night, and by Sunday, I've no doubt when I'm back here in this chair on Sunday morning, we will find out what has or has not been agreed. But there's no doubt that a real, clean, democratic Brexit is now in crisis, and I have to say, I think the lack of leadership from our Prime Minister is the main problem.
Yeah, he's going to have to go back in, which he keeps threatening. He said, "Oh well, if it goes the way,"
doesn't want to do it.
Well, that's what he says. But what else would the guy do? He's a natural. He loves it. Come on, he loves it.
He likes doing this talk show on LBC.
Yeah, well,
and he likes showing up. He's a Fox contributor. He gets to go on Fox, few snide comments. Gets paid for that. I mean, his business was always which people always get wrong. He was a metals trader.
Yes, in
London, the city of London, and somehow got political and reluctant. So, yeah, well, you might be right about this part. Claiming to never wanting to do any of it, he just had to because nobody else could do it.
No, he loves it. He loves it. I can see it. The guy loves doing it. Hey, good on him. And he loves hanging out with Trump. Talking about being pulled apart, that's about to happen to Judge Kavanaugh, who will now go through the rigorous process of being confirmed by the United States Senate to be on the Supreme Court, which the Supreme Court, before we even get into any of that, where exactly in the Constitution do they get their power from? Because I don't really see...
They're the third part of government.
Right. But so does that mean that what they say is law? That what they say goes? Because that's the way it's treated. And I think that kind of started in 1974 for real.
Well, they're the arbiters of... the laws are made by Congress.
Mm-hmm.
Not made by the president. They're not made by the judiciary.
Right.
Congress makes the laws, and the judiciary's job, if it comes up, has to determine whether or not those laws meet the constitutional requirements.
Mm-hmm. That's called judicial review.
Yeah, that's it.
Now, the way I understand is
what they do.
When the Constitution was put together, and I actually can't. It's hard. I'm not a constitutional lawyer, but there was no. I mean, yes, you had. Neither of the branches has the final say. That's my point. It's like they can say, "Well, this is unconstitutional," and then Congress has to change or can change the law or adapt it however they want. But
you can rewrite it.
Yeah, but they don't. Is it a requirement that if something is deemed unconstitutional by the Supreme Court, by the judiciary, that then the legislative branch, are they beholden to like Germany to Russia? They have to then do that?
No, they can just let it slide and just say, okay, well, that law is not going to be enforced anymore because it's unconstitutional. Because every time if it kept getting enforced, they kept getting sued. It wouldn't work out.
Okay. That's probably also somewhere in the Constitution. I will just sue you. I don't know. To me, it's a little confusing.
I
mean, I have always believed the Supreme Court Like when they say, this is good, this is not good, that's the final say, and that's the way it's generally accepted. I'm just wondering if, to the letter of the law, and we have constitutional lawyers who listen, what if Congress says, well, screw you, forget the lawsuits. What if they said, well,
that doesn't mean anything. Congress has no power of authority to enforce these laws. That's still the judicial side. That's the court system in the country is all kind of a part of the Supreme Court system.
Mm-hmm.
And so if Congress says, no, we're going to keep this law, too bad, it doesn't make any difference because the police won't be able to enforce the law. I mean, the whole thing would be just a joke.
It would be a constitutional crisis.
It wouldn't be a crisis because no one would do anything about it. They would just die. It would be a dead letter law.
Okay. Well, this pick certainly it kicked off a crap storm of epic proportions.
No, it was going to, no matter who they picked, if they would have picked Mother Teresa as a corpse, it would have caused a problem with these guys. They don't want Trump to get anything through until the election's over, so they maybe can get – the Democrats hope to God that they can get the Senate back.
Well, and I'll tell you, the Democrats they came out in full force. As you know, I've contributed to multiple parties, but certainly Republican and Democrat parties, to get on the mailing list. Oh, my God. It was a pitch-in moment for everybody. Everybody sending out – it was donation time.
This is just a money grab.
Yeah, here's Elizabeth Warren's note. Brett Kavanaugh. That's the name of Donald Trump's awful Supreme Court nominee. As a judge, he has a long record of decisions that hurts women, workers, and consumers. Trump's nomination of Brett Kavanaugh last night puts rights we hold dear at stake like never before. Women's rights to control their own bodies, workers' rights, consumers' rights, you name it. They could all get squeezed to the breaking point if Kavanaugh is confirmed. Our only chance to stop Brett Kavanaugh's confirmation is to help Senate Democrats fight back. And we also must take back control of the Senate in 2018. Will you chip in $3 right now? Or whatever you can afford to help us elect?
Who's writing this copy? It's always the same.
Will you chip in $3 right now, or whatever you can afford to help us elect a Senate that will save our court? Imagining a Supreme Court with Brett Kavanaugh on the bench makes me sick to my stomach.
Says that?
Yes. Throughout his career, Kavanaugh has voted against an opinion that upheld the Affordable Care Act and preserved health care for millions, opposed letting a young immigrant woman get prompt access to safe legal abortion, claimed that the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau is unconstitutional, tried to strike down net neutrality, and argued that sitting presidents should be exempt from lawsuits and criminal investigations or prosecution. And guess what? Brett Kavanaugh's nomination is a field day for the right-wing elites and big corporations who picked him by hand, just like they did with Neil Gorsuch for Judge Merrick Garland's stolen Supreme Court seat. But no one makes it to the Supreme Court without going through the Senate. Not on my watch. I'm prepared to fight with every bone in my Cherokee body for a Supreme Court that's fair,
it doesn't
equal.
Say that.
Oh, I'm prepared to fight with every bone in my body for a Supreme Court that's fair, equal, and just for all. Are you ready to join in that fight? Chip in $3 right now to help us protect the Supreme Court and take back the Senate in November. We're not going back. Not now, not ever. Thanks for being a part of this, Elizabeth.
She's a psycho.
Or whoever's writing that is kind of psycho.
Yeah.
And just give you some advice. Your $3 chip in is dumb. That's a $30 ask.
Well, I wonder because the reason I wonder is because the guys doing this, and it's one group.
Yes.
So it's hard to kind of really tell. You can tell.
I think is it Share Blue or one of these outfits?
I don't know who it is. They always, and I can tell you right now, if you looked at that letter, it's got red on it.
Oh
right?
yeah, of course it does. Yeah.
Yeah, not blue, not orange, not
red.
Green, not yellow, red.
Yeah.
It's always got red. It's thematically red. Is
that important in the world of newsletters? Does that make a difference?
Not that I know of.
Good.
I can give you a couple of things that I've taken these seminars when I was younger, and so I kind of knew what. Of course, the things change, and newsletters or not newsletters so much as direct marketing pieces, which that is. That's a version of what used to be called direct mail. They study the death out of it, and they keep coming up with new little gimmicks. And the gimmicks are always, from what I can understand, because I was shown all the gimmicks of the era, the gimmicks that work only work.
Is it closing $1 with your letter? Here's $1.
That's another gimmick that kind of worked for a while. There was I can when I get mail, real mail, and some other things that come, I can look at it and say, this is a new gimmick they're trying. I'd see how long it goes on. And I believe that the people who put together these Democrat letters, and they're all done, and I think Trump uses the same group. But
possibly
this group that's doing these letters for all the different candidates and for all the different things that uses very strong with these red. I think these are all ideas that expired. I think these are bad ideas. I mean, there were probably good ideas for a moment that maybe it lasted maybe a year, and then they died like they all do with direct marketing. And I believe the chip in thing, which came up, I thought maybe we first heard it. We talk about it on the show all the time. 2016, maybe. 2015, I don't know.
I want to say it was 2012.
It could be. Time flies.
I think so.
But if that's dead, it doesn't work. Every time because we the two of us ridicule it, and it's stupid.
Yeah.
At this point, it was probably cute. Somebody probably dropped it in as a test because that's the thing about this type of marketing: test.
Yeah.
So they tested it, and it got a huge response because no one heard of it before in these solicitations, and it was like kind of catchy. Oh yeah, that's great. And I remember chip in. I'm going to chip in. And so that may have caught.
I think it's the chip in that we take the most offense of. The chip in.
Yeah, and I think it caught on for a while. The other thing that was also tested, I believe, because you wouldn't have this stupid number of $3. It was always chip in $3.
Yeah.
I think it's dead.
Well,
I think if this is still working, I'd be stunned.
I recall when this first started happening, again, I think it was around 2012, and I think we took issue with the idea of chip in, which is at the time a lot of podcasters who were using a tip jar model. We railed on that, saying you are purposefully diminishing your work and your product by saying chip in, just chip in, like you're a hobo. Chip in. There's actually a guy on 2nd Street now. He has a plastic cup.
By the way, the one that really rail against this, not me so much.
No, there's a guy on 2nd Street now, one of our homeless friends, and he has a fishing pole, a fishing rod with the string and a cup. He just sits on the bench, and people put money in the cup as they walk by. I gotta get a picture of this guy for you.
Yeah.
Anyway,
put it in a newsletter.
It diminishes what you're doing. I don't understand it. It didn't seem like smart fundraising to me. That's all. I live with a fundraiser. We discuss this all the time.
Yeah.
What Elizabeth Warren needs.
What does she think of it?
What Elizabeth Warren needs is that kid from Shriners Hospital.
Give me a break.
That's the money maker. Hey, everybody, I'm Alex. That kid is the best. He could raise money for anybody. Love that guy. I hope he's still alive.
Now, what does the keeper think about the $3 chip in?
I'll get an updated. We've discussed it, but it's been a while. I'll ask her again. But I know she'll think it's stupid.
I think it's dated.
Yeah, it's stupid.
I think that people that get these letters, and you're getting a lot of them because you do more than I do in regards to that. I get them too. You see it over and over. Oh, chip in $3, chip in $3. The public at large, unless they're complete morons, has to see this and see it as a gimmick. That what are you trying to trick? What is this? Is this some sort of trick?
Yeah.
What are you doing this for? Why is this going on like this forever?
And I don't know, but I get mailings from the Trump family and from him and from Don Jr.
That's a really gimmick.
But they're all help me celebrate the president's birthday from Melania. But this starts at $150. And guess what?
They don't have the $3 chip in?
Guess what? It ain't working either. I'm going to give $150. No way.
The guy's got plenty of money. I don't know. Yeah.
Well, but you look at it, it's the RNC. It's RNC. I don't want to.
Well, the RNC should do their own fundraising
I don't like it. Another thing I don't like is I think I once gave Judicial Watch or something. Somewhere I've been using a lot of clips from somebody over time, and then a pop-up shows and value for value. Like, thanks, man. I get some clips from you. Here's a little value. But then I'm on the mailing list. I'm on the mailing list for it's mrctv.org, Media Research Center, Sean Hannity newsletters. And the worst is, I think it was Judicial Watch. The envelope shows up and it looks like a court summons with two windows, it's like important court filing document. I'm like, what? Now what am I in trouble for now? And you open it up and it's a pitch letter. Threw it right away. It's a horrible trick.
Kept it.
Yeah, you're right. I'm an idiot. Horrible.
No, my understanding is, and I think it still applies, that there was laws against some of these approaches that are still being violated.
Thank you, Senator Warren. That was her thing.
That's do nothing. Warren would be the one that would do nothing about it. But I'm of the understanding, and I could be wrong, and I've not really looked into it. I just get irked every time I see one. Is you cannot send somebody what appears to be a check.
Oh, I received that. I still receive those from time to time.
Yeah. Pay to the order of.
It's always the way. It's always when it's time to pay off the credit card. Then I get all these. Hey, seems like you're in debt, pal. Yeah.
It's like the really well done ones. It's like it's a window with the thing inside, and on the
pay to the order of.
Big enough that you can see the words "pay to the order of."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't fall for those.
What a scam.
However, Judge Kavanaugh, he might want to consider some fundraising of his own, as the pulling apart of him and his family has already started. And I have to say, I do have respect for anyone willing to go through that process. Apparently, he had tens of thousands of dollars in credit card debt. He has very low net worth, about $65,000.
I don't believe this story, by the way. I know what story. I don't believe it.
It may not be true.
I've heard this story. I just don't. I think it's bullshit.
Let me tell the story. The credit card debt apparently was from buying tickets to the Washington Nationals season tickets for him and his buddies.
And the reason I don't believe this story is because it's got all the elements of a hoax story. Because for one thing, the Washington Nationals are huge losers.
Yeah.
And they're like this really super powerfully fantastic team that can't win playoff games. And so it's something you can laugh about under your, this guy's an idiot for wanting to go to those games. It just has hoax written all over it. I'm not saying he never bought a Washington Nationals ticket in his life. He's in Washington, D.C. But what I'm saying is I don't believe he went into great, deep credit card debt because he's buying tickets for everybody.
So the headlines are, Kavanaugh accumulated thousands in debt. Kavanaugh piled on credit card debt. Kavanaugh had massive credit card debt. Is that the level that we're at now for vetting people?
Yeah.
Where's Snopes?
Yeah.
Where's Snopes?
Probably a lot of Washington Post articles in there.
Oh, yeah. Oh, of course it's Washington. Washington Post broke it. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's like the golden toilet.
They broke the story.
Washington Post, I believe, was Washington Post.
Well, there were some fun things being said from the pundits on TV. A rare opportunity to play something idiotic from Fox. Not that they don't have tons of idiotic stuff to say. It's just is usually not funny. At least not to me. This was pretty good. Shep Smith on the game. Shep Smith is still the remaining proof that the Democrats run Fox News.
Back in 2009, Judge Kavanaugh wrote that sitting presidents should be protected from lawsuits and criminal investigations until they're out of office. Quoting here, like civil suits, criminal investigations take the president's focus away from his or her responsibilities to the people. And a president who is concerned about an ongoing criminal investigation is almost inevitably going to do a worse job as president. Think of the time, then. That was on the heels of all of the Clinton investigations, and Judge Kavanaugh had been very closely involved with the writing of the Ken Starr report, the more salacious parts. Some Democrats say all of that shows President Trump is basically choosing somebody who would have his back should an investigation become, well, the top priority. But in that same piece, Judge Kavanaugh also wrote this: if the president does something dastardly, the impeachment process is available. Dastardly.
See, that was my ISO.
Dastardly.
I thought that would be a great end of show ISO. It doesn't cut it by the foamer. But so there's Shep.
Well, let's talk about this for a second. This is an example of, you can look at this from two perspectives. One, this guy was involved in the Whitewater investigation and came up with the decision that this sort of thing shouldn't go on while the guy's president. It should go on afterwards, especially small little diddly suits, little lawsuits over this and that. You can't have that.
Right.
President needs to be buffered from that. And he's not going to be there forever, so he can do something after he's out. Because he saw what was happening to Clinton. It wasn't helping the presidency at all, and he was a witness to it because he was part of it.
Wait a minute, but just you're right. So again, we have to look at this from multiple dimensions. He actually was trying to help a Democratic president at the time.
No, he was on the Starr investigation side.
But he wrote in defense that this should not happen.
Right. Yeah.
So that would be pro-Democratic President Clinton.
I would say yes.
Okay. All right. This is what makes it.
There was water under the bridge because there's nothing you could do about it at the time. But he witnessed it because he was part of the whole thing, and he saw it wasn't helping the country. It's eventually, like he said, there was the impeachment process that you could always fall back on, and you could do that with anybody.
Yeah. And you don't have to leave when you're impeached. It's just like a vote of no confidence. Like, we hate you. Okay. Do you have to leave when you're impeached?
That's a good question because no one's ever been fully impeached. It always goes through it never gets confirmed by the Senate.
As far as I'm yeah, exactly. The Senate, you still have to go through the process of having the majority of the Senate and the administration and the vice president. Everybody has to say, "Get out, you're no good."
Yeah, I don't even think it's just not a simple majority.
No, you still go back to the Constitution. The impeachment is just a political thing, as far as I know. It's just like we don't like you. And then,
why don't you look it up?
Oh, I always have to do this.
Consult the book of knowledge.
Okay.
Little fast little phone there. You can look it up real quick.
Oh, you're going to be like that? Impeachment. Process whereby a legislative body formally levels charges against a high official of government. Let me see. U.S. impeachment.
Get kicked out.
United States. Okay. Process. At the federal level, the impeachment process is two-step procedure. Here we go. The House of Representatives must first pass by a simple majority of those present and voting articles of impeachment, which constitute the formal allegation or allegations. Upon passage, the defendant has been impeached. Next, the Senate tries the accused. In the case of the impeachment of a president, the Chief Justice of the United States presides over the hearings. For the impeachment of any other official, the Constitution is silent on who shall preside. Suggesting this role falls to the Senate's usual presiding officer, which would be the vice president who presides over the Senate. To convict an accused, the concurrence of 2/3 of the members present is required.
That'll never happen.
No. Conviction removes the defendant from office. Following conviction, the Senate may vote to further punish the individual, barring him or her from holding office in the future, etc. So exactly, the impeachment process, unless whatever he did or does is so egregious that everybody's on board, it's unlikely to happen. But it's in there. Luckily, it's in there. So it's possible if need be.
Well, if the guy, let's imagine a president who is a unstoppable flasher. And so everywhere he goes and everything he does, he's dropping his pants and then doing a jig or something.
Well, that would fall under the mental capacity, and they can get him out that way.
Well, that you could probably get him up for 25. But let's say that let's say that the entire cabinet, because it has to be the cabinet, were a bunch of perverts, and they thought this was fabulous. So they couldn't get rid of him, so they could impeach him. I think under those circumstances, especially if he went naked in front of the Senate.
Yeah, but you don't have to do the impeachment process. You can just go through, what is it? What's in Article 2? You just have to get the three quarters majority and the vice president and the cabinet, and they can all say.
No, the cabinet, I just prefaced it. The cabinet are a bunch of perverts that will not do this.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Right. So then you have to go through impeachment. Yes.
So they go through impeachment. He's naked the whole time, dancing around.
And this is going over well.
Yeah. And so then he goes.
I'm Sean Hannity. We're live now with the president. Holy shit, Mr. President.
And so I believe that's the only circumstance they're going to get 2/3 majority in the Senate.
Right. Pass it on to Maxine so she knows. Well, it's just talking about the Constitution. We have Jeffrey Toobin, who I believe is a constitutional scholar.
I don't think so.
Well, he presents himself that way. And
he's just a writer.
You know how people always like to interpret the Constitution by saying, well, back then, they never envisioned AR-15s. No, they never envisioned the internet. No way. Jeffrey Toobin, when it comes to the Supreme Court, he's got his own version of this.
This isn't like last year's fight. This is the fight of basically the future of the Supreme Court for the next 40 years.
For the next 40 years?
Possibly, yeah, absolutely. I mean, these are young jurists.
Hold on a second.
What?
How old, since you're going to throw that bull crap out, how old is this guy?
Well, this isn't Toobin. This is a lead-in to Toobin.
No, I'm talking about how old is the nominee?
Oh, 48, I believe.
I think he's 50.
Okay.
Well, I don't know. I mean, we have to look him up.
Oh, jeez.
I mean, we can't just keep throwing stuff out unless we know.
Well, stop asking questions without knowing the answer.
Why are we lazy today?
We're not lazy. It's just we don't have answers. That's all. And
how do you spell the guy?
He's from 1965. He's 52.
He's 52. So you're telling me he's going to be on the Supreme Court when he's 92 years old? Really? Is that what you're telling me, Toobin?
Well, no, that's not Toobin.
Well, I don't care if it's Toobin or the other guy. Well, it's this 40-year meme. Listen, the Democrats have been saying.
You'll like Toobin better.
I mean, these are young jurists, yeah.
I mean, when the Constitution was written in the late 18th century, people were expected to die in their 50s. The framers never contemplated that these terms would regularly go to 30-plus years as they do now.
Oh, really? So the framers, the founding fathers of our nation, had no idea, not from historical perspective or vision, that people would live longer in the future. That's basically what he's saying, which I think is an insult.
Well, it's not only an insult, but let's take a look at a couple different people. Just randomly.
Go with
what
Ginsburg.
About Ben Franklin?
Yes.
How old was he when he died? It doesn't say immediately. In office. He was born in 1706. And he died in 1790. So he was 84. Huh. So Ben Franklin was 84 when he died. And I think you can take a lot of these guys and find that many of them lived in their 80s and probably in their 90s. So this is bull crap.
It's interesting. When I told my mom I was divorcing my first wife, she said her response was kind of epic. She says, well, Adam, when they made up that till death do us part crap, people died at 40, so... And I thought it was an interesting interpretation. Yeah. But yeah, Ben Franklin clearly was around. No, it's bullshit. But that's the level of information people are getting. It's like, well, maybe we should get rid of the Supreme Court. Maybe that's what what is coming next for him. All I know is that people are entirely underinformed, misinformed, and virtue signal in many different ways. The adults under 40 population is despicable. Now, this is Man on the Street, which is easy to edit. We always mock the Man on the Street interviews because you can just pull out of it what you want. This was done by Campus Reform, and they went on the streets. I think it was a college university in New York, and they asked people about President Trump's pick for the Supreme Court before he had picked it. So you know how it works. I mean, Jimmy Kimmel does this, only Kimmel didn't do this one, which makes it that much better. Kennedy had announced that he was retiring. Trump says, I'm going to pick somebody. And these guys go out from campus reform and go ask the millennials, adults under 40, what do you think of the president's new pick?
I think the big thing that's been in the news today, Supreme Court, Justice Kennedy stepping down. So there's a vacancy. All week, people were worried about who it was going to be. This week, he made his announcement. What's your reaction to the justice that he nominated today?
I'm honestly not surprised by his choice, but that's just worse for us.
I just saw the pick and I was like, it's almost at a point where you kind of expect that it's not going to be what you want.
He's quite, extreme in his views, and I don't know if it would make the Supreme Court very even.
I see it all over the news that he's racist and shit.
This new nominee is very racist, and I think it's starting a new wave of something very negative, and I'm really scared about what happens in the future and what choices he'll make.
And so what reaction have you seen on social media today after the news?
Oh, outrage, as it should be.
If this is just a reoccurring thing, he keeps doing this with different positions and just doing whatever he wants, abusing his power.
Yeah. Do you feel like his pick is an abuse of power?
Basically, yeah.
His entire cabinet and everyone he's chosen has been the white supremacist Legion of Doom, and it's dangerous to everyone who looks like me.
And you feel like the Supreme Court nominee today kind of falls in that same line?
Of course. They should all wear white hoods and burn crosses at the Capitol, because that's exactly the move. That's what they're going for.
And the fact that he would put someone up there that is so racist and is not practicing the equality that we need to see, it's insulting, and he's not going to last. I mean,
so you're not a fan of the pick?
I'm really not.
I did speak to my dad a couple days ago, and I know he was not a huge fan of the decision that he made.
What would be your message to President Trump on what qualities you would want a Supreme Court justice to have?
Black. A black woman.
Is it wrong, though, to suggest someone be picked just on the color of their skin, though?
I mean, but I said black women for a reason. Black women were the only ones who really turned out in full majority to not vote for President Trump.
And it just went on and on and on.
So if you're confronted with this microphone, the first thing you say is, I don't know who the pick is, because you don't. Because it wasn't picked at the time. I mean, this inability for this group of people, and it's not all of them, but many of them, to admit that they don't know something.
Yes.
This is I think. Oh, I think is that. What do you think is going to happen? What is going to be? Oh, I think this. I think that's why I kept insisting, for example, when we don't quite know something, we have to look it up on the spot.
And you are.
Because we're not of that ilk where, I don't know, so I'm going to make it up, which is what these guys are doing. Now, the fact that you brought that clip up with the stupidity, I have to bring a clip in from 2007.
Okay.
And the reason I'm putting this clip in is because this is a clip I call for every once in a while. We can never find it. And this is the 2007 clip. Just a reminder of the education system. This is the Miss Teen USA, Miss South Carolina answer to a stupid question about how come Americans cannot find the United States on a map?
Recent polls have shown a fifth of Americans can't locate the U.S. on a world map. Why do you think this is?
I personally believe that U.S. Americans are unable to do so because some people out there in our nation don't have maps, and I believe that our education, such as in South Africa and the Iraq, everywhere such as, and I believe that they should, our education over here in the U.S. should help the U.S. or should help South Africa and should help the Iraq and the Asian countries, so we will be able to build up our future for our children.
Thank you very much, South Carolina.
Man, that was back when it was good.
Classic.
Yeah, you're so right. We're all doomed.
Straight from Reseda, here she is, Raven. Give it up.
I'm going to show my support by donating to No Agenda. Imagine all the people who could do that. Oh yeah, that'd be fab.
Yeah, on No Agenda. In the morning.
Yeah, we do have a few people left over that need to be credited for helping produce the show, and we're going to name them one at a time with the amount they gave us. Starting with Blake Camilleri in Victoria Park, Western Australia. I'll read this note. Your podcast has become priority listening for me after stumbling upon it almost a year ago. I love hearing your take on whatever the media has latched onto as part of their endless outrage cycle.
Exactly.
And he donated $150.
Thank you.
Mark Waterloo in Cary, North Carolina, $105.
He's Sir Crash EMT.
Sir Crash EMT, right? He's given us many stories.
Yes.
And we hope to hear more from him. Jay Codacini, 8008 Boob in Austin, Texas.
Ooh, Boob. Hey, meetup coming. The keeper's in charge. Austin meetup
Boob.
coming. And no one has even sent me one email whether Friday or Saturday is preferred.
We will have a website up thanks to Adam Hornswoggling Mimi into producing such a website that will be the No Agenda Meetup central location.
Oh, excellent.
Roland Boulder in the Netherlands. Job karma for wife. So we'll put that at the end for you.
Yes.
Jacob Hernandez, $75.
Space Force. Chris Beggio, 73.
73s.
Where's your call sign, bro?
Where's your call sign? We don't know. They didn't put it on. Bob Osegueda. Osegueda. Small boobs. 6006.
Small boobs, yep.
Joseph Defio in Long Island City, New York, 5555. That came in as a check. Sean Cardinal, 5220. Sir Eric VM, Baronet of the Valley, 5038. And now we have the $50 donors. This is not a big list today, people. Richard Gardner, 50. Jonathan Ferris, Liberal, Kansas. Robert Bruckner, parts unknown. Brett Yo in Catonsville, Maryland, I think. Drew Mochak in El Cerrito, California. Lehman Burton. And last but not least, Robert Decane, I think, in Fairfax, Virginia. Very small.
Robert Decane.
Well wishes, but I want to thank them all for helping us produce Show 1050.
Yeah. Man, Skype is doing that speed up thing from time to time on you again.
Well, it should be speeding up. I will say this. I just want to mention the people out there who haven't donated for a while. The total number of people we mentioned today, total, including executive producers and these folks, 22 out of the entire No Agenda universe. So
seems like we could do better than that.
Seems low.
Just people numbers. Even if you're chipping in, chip in, people. I have let's see, I have a couple of nice notes I wanted to share since this segment's kind of short. Adam and John, Jobs Karma is real. I'd requested Jobs Karma a couple of months ago and became a regular donor to the show on the Knighthood layaway plan. And within 3 weeks, I had multiple job offers. I accepted a job offer and now have a career with great benefits at a corporation that is well respected in my field. I served over 2 decades on active duty service in the military and retired nearly a year ago. To say it has been a challenge to find employment is an understatement. I cannot begin to tell you how difficult it has been to transition from the military to the civilian job market, and I believe I have a better footing than many fellow veterans. As I retired from active duty service with over 2 decades of experience in my field and completed 2 college degrees. So to all those employers listening, hire veterans, as we are among the most fiercely loyal, wickedly smart, hilariously funny, quickly adaptable, and highly disciplined people you will ever meet. To my fellow unemployed veterans, continue to plug away at your education, certifications, and experience. Keep applying to those jobs, believe in your abilities, and do not give up hope, because I can attest there are corporations that will hire you and that value your sacrifice to our nation and selfless contribution to society. And everyone listening, if you haven't donated to the best podcast in the universe, I urge you to support the excellent deconstruction that John and Adam do. They work hard to keep us sharp against the constant grind of the M5M. Don't forget, or remember, use the formula. Let's go out there and hit people in the mouth. Sincerely, soon to be Sir Lab Rat of the Hill Country, George from Universal City, Texas. That was a nice note that needs to be said about the vets.
Yes.
And then this came in from Sir Chris Wilson in Australia. He said, please, we need emergency heart karma. Sir Cumvent the Law's father was flown to the hospital, as he says, flown to hospital in Brisbane earlier today. Shout out to the community and some karma for him. So we'll do that, of course. John already mentioned July 19th, No Agenda Meetup in Ontario. That is right before the Jordan B. Peterson talk at the Sony Center. Tickets are still available for that. Come on over.
And the meetup will be right across the street.
Yes, meet in the bar, maybe grab a bite with other No Agenda fans in the 1930s Paris meets fresh London cool bistro. Experience a slice of European enchantment at Biff's Bistro. What? Am I doing a live read for a local AM station?
Sounds like it.
Meet other NA fans in the morning, 5 p.m. Nights, bring your rings. Bring friends you want to hit in the mouth. And then I might as well pre-promote the South Lake Tahoe No Agenda Meetup, July 29th. These are important, by the way. This is very important to what we do. And I appreciate people self-organizing into doing this.
They do need a little appearance, some coaching on some things that they do wrong. But
well, that's why Mimi's going to do it.
Yeah, apparently she is. Now, one of the things that we should note is that the reason you want these meetups is because you get to meet like-minded people who will not suck your karma out of you and get into stupid arguments about stuff that is not worth arguing about.
Right.
I've got more comments when I've gone to a number of these. Obviously, I've had a few, centered around me. Mm-hmm. And the thing I know is that everybody they like each other on first glance. Or when they meet, they have good conversations and they all feel very comfortable. Because there's not, we're not dealing with just a general population
it truly is. I hate to say it. It truly is a safe space.
It is.
It's a safe space. And what always amazes me with the meetups is, and I think this may be universal, you look at someone like, I never thought that kind of person would be a No Agenda listener. And seriously, and then you're like, oh, well, yeah, very like-minded. And Americans maybe in general are a lot like that, although I find a lot of that in Europe too. Very open, but, maybe just not able to discuss things as openly in your work or place or your family. Or it's a lot of fun to come to one of these. And as we've learned from the Lost Connections book, it really helps against depression and all kinds of other psychological disorders. You need to meet people. And I think today's environment, no matter where you stand with any opinion, you're afraid to give it in a group. You don't know, if I say this, then someone might ridicule me or get tossed out.
It never happens.
What never happens?
You don't have this ridicule function because there's nobody there that doesn't have the, it's just a great place. Even in England where we had, another variety, a huge variety of people. that liked that were show mavens. It's just fascinating to run into all these guys because some of them you're right. You'd look at them and say, well, this guy probably hates the show. The looks of him, but no, not true.
Not true at all. Now it's great fun, and I'm looking forward to the Austin one.
Although I should say this. There's we do have all these Eagle Scouts and Marines and all these different guys and a good variety of women. There is an inordinate amount of dudes.
Binders of women we have.
There's an inordinate number of dudes named Ben.
Yes. And dudettes.
Yeah. And dudettes. But it's just like a little, I would say at least 40% of the audience is why, at these meetups. About almost half the people at the meetup.
That's because we respect them. Because we have worked in corporate environments. We respect dudes named Ben. We know they actually run the world. Hams like to think they're going to save the world when the Armageddon hits, but it's going to be the dudes named Ben, who coincidentally often are hams as well. But they keep the world running, and they're always disrespected and seen as lowly douchebags who just smell bad.
That's like being a writer in Hollywood. The writers always pushed aside.
That idea, yeah, and it's just someone that is there to help you retrieve your password when you have your caps lock on. I mean, that's basically what they're for. Whereas here at the No Agenda Show, from experience, we know much better than that. Well, we want to thank everybody on the list, all 22 of you. Thank you for supporting the show. There were a couple more people who came in under $50, those who want to remain anonymous, as well as people on our layaway plans and some of our subscriptions. Please check to make sure yours is still intact. And do consider supporting the show for our next episode, which will come to you on Sunday.
Dvorak.org/NA. Jobs, 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 and jobs. Let's vote for jobs.
You've got karma.
And we got 3 on the list for today. We have Sir Cardinal, who says happy birthday to Sir Paul the Black. That is belated. He celebrated yesterday on the 11th of July, along with Jay and Keeper. Sir Brian Warden says happy birthday to his son Tyler Warden, also celebrated yesterday and turned 8. And Joan Kramer says happy birthday to his smoking hot wife Janet. She turns 50 on July 17th. And we say happy birthday from all your friends and all the family here at the best podcast in the universe. Yeah. Okay, one nighting for today, so I'll just pretend yours is not stuck. Wow.
It's there. There
you
it is.
You got it immediately. And here's mine. Boom. Well, you got lucky there, Peter. Peter Tankstrom, everybody, stepping up to the podium right here at the round table of the No Agenda Knights and Dames. Peter, thank you very much for supporting the best podcast in the universe, the amount of $1,000 or more. That gives you a ring, sealing wax, and a certificate, and a seat at the round table, and your title. I hereby pronounce thee Sir Pete of the High Power Hammerheads. For you, my friend, we have hookers a blow, rent boys and Chardonnay, zucchini and meatloaf. We've got parliaments and pale ale, waifus and waffles, bourbon and bong ribs, trophies and tire smoke, kebab and Persian wine, sparkling cider and escores, ginger ale and gerbils, breast milk and pablomen, mutton and mead with a bit of phlegm. Please go to noagendanation.com/rings. Eric the Shill will take care of you and make sure your ring comes out to you as soon as possible. And thanks again for supporting the show. We actually, literally could not do it without you. It's
no, we don't.
Highly appreciated. Okay. Let me see.
I got a couple of things we can play that are kind of cute. There's local stories. Actually, I have 3 local stories. One is about the Apple car project being stolen by the Chinese.
Oh?
You know about that?
No. Let's listen.
On 5, a bizarre case of corporate espionage. An engineer accused of stealing secrets from the world's largest tech company. The FBI stopped him in his tracks at Manetta International Airport.
The data in question, Apple's very secretive autonomous car project. KPIX5's Melissa Kane joins us now with how it all unfolded. Melissa?
That's right, Liz and Ken. Documents filed in federal court tell a gripping story about the race to make the best autonomous cars, and one man who the feds say tried to take a shortcut. On a sunny Saturday, Xiaoling Zhang bought one plane ticket from San Jose to Hangzhou, China, leaving immediately. He went through security at Terminal B, and that's when FBI agents arrested him for allegedly stealing secrets from the world's largest tech company. KPIX5 security analyst Jeff Harp, a former FBI agent, says companies spend big on research and development.
And so if somebody breaches that trust, they're going to go after them.
Now, Zhang joined Apple in 2015 to work on the autonomous vehicles project. According to court documents, the details of Apple's research and development for the project is a closely guarded secret that has never been publicly revealed. The FBI says in April of this year, Zhang went to China, and the weekend before he was supposed to return to work, he downloaded massive amounts of confidential information and documents, including documents that show prototypes and prototype requirements. On Monday, Zhang went to his supervisor and said he was quitting. He was going to work for a competitor, a Chinese company called Xiaopeng Motors. Apple escorted him out of the building, and the next day, Apple learned that Zhang had already taken reams of data, documents, and equipment.
The cat's out of the bag. I mean, at some point, Apple realizes that they're under damage control mode now.
The FBI did get involved and searched Zhang's house on June 27th. 10 days later, he bought that one ticket for a same-day flight to China. Harp says that when a person is under investigation, buying an international ticket is a red flag.
And if they see that you've bought an immediate ticket to hightail it out of the country, chances are they're going to say hello to you at the gate when you get there.
Now, Zhang was arrested and charged with one count of stealing trade secrets. And today, a federal judge set his bail at $300,000 and ordered him to turn over his passport.
Wow. So?
You didn't get that story there?
No.
No, this is a Chinese espionage story.
I read a story about Apple in China that there was something wrong with, and I guess here's what happened. The most recent iOS update, someone, of course, saw stuff and they figured out what had been updated. And apparently Apple had coded something in a Chinese version of the iOS or certain localized versions that you could not type in Taiwan and have the flag pop up. You know how the Apple's... And
they're uptight about that.
Right. But then it was crashing applications here in the U.S. when you type in Taiwan. The minute you hit the N, it would crash. I don't know. It's a mess. Yeah, who cares about Apple's self-driving car? I don't care. I don't want it. Call me old-fashioned.
You're a Luddite.
Yes. Well, of course I'm a Luddite. No, I've driven the semi-autonomous, and I want nothing to do with it. But that's not as interesting to me as the Awan brothers, which, we only briefly touched on.
You don't want to talk about it.
Well, this guy basically got off with a slap on the wrist for bank fraud. But there was so much more going on, so much more reported. And you're right. Fox News is reporting on it. Specifically, this Luke Rosiak of the Daily Caller. I have some respect for the Daily Caller. Their foundation, and they have a lot of the right ideas. Of course, I will not support them because they're also part of the Facebook news fact check false system, the international fact check network. So I want nothing to do with them. But the guy, you got to hand it to him. He has been on the story and has not stopped. And if you just hear how much is still open and in question, it's stunning that this is not big news. And that is the only thing I'll agree on with him, but have a listen.
There was a breach on Congress, a hack on Congress during the election detected by the House Inspector General, where these guys were funneling data off the House network, and then they actually stole a server containing evidence, essentially like killing someone and then hiding the body.
During the election, this happened.
Correct. And we never heard about this. Obviously, this would have been this would have changed the election. Mm-hmm. We're talking about Russia all the time, and meanwhile, there's a simultaneous hack that's virtually identical connected to Pakistan. So for the last year, we've been trying to unravel this cover-up and figure out, we know the data is going off the House network. Where is it going? We now have a source, an on-the-record source, the Awan family's business partner in Pakistan, a guy named Rashid Minus, who says that Imran Awan's father was giving USBs of data to Pakistani intelligence officials. If that's true, then what we're talking about here is a spy in Congress that was brought in by Debbie Wasserman Schultz and these other lawmakers. As you mentioned, we had a really smart reporter, a guy named Wajid Ali Saeed from Pakistan, who knows the lay of the land over there, and he did extensive reporting trying to confirm these allegations. We weren't able to confirm one way or another whether there was really USB handoffs, but we unearthed information that tends to corroborate some of what this guy is saying. What we've confirmed from numerous sources that Imran Awan travels Pakistan with an entourage of armed government agents from Pakistan. He receives protection from Pakistani agents. Why would a low-level IT guy have that?
Yeah.
The other thing we confirmed is that he makes these outlandish boasts over in Pakistan to everyone he meets about his political power, even saying he has the power to change the U.S. president. Mm-hmm. So when we consider the fact that we know data was going off the House network, and even the fact that he worked for Debbie Wasserman Schultz when those DNC emails were taken, you put it all together, and what we're talking about is really frightening stuff.
And he's not
to think
the
this is all
one.
okay.
Yeah, he's not the only part of the Awan family who worked for Debbie Wasserman Schultz or the DNC.
They had the whole family on the House payroll, and even Senator Joe Donnelly from Indiana, he's somehow involved in this because he paid $100 to the father of Imran Awan to be his systems administrator. Mm-hmm. The father is an old man in Pakistan who says in court documents that he's an unemployed religious cleric on welfare.
Where are they now, and what has Debbie Wasserman Schultz said about this, and where's this missing laptop as well?
The amazing thing is that they haven't been, they're not in jail. There's a whole family of 5 of them. 2 of them were charged with trying to flee the country, essentially, but they weren't actually charged with the underlying hacking. And so what happened is Wasserman Schultz refused to fire this guy. When he was a known suspect in a criminal hacking probe, she insisted on allowing him to keep coming into the House building, which is obviously completely bizarre. It's frankly irrational, given that she had just been fired from the DNC. So what he does is he comes into the House building at midnight after he's a criminal hacking suspect, takes her laptop and leaves it in a phone booth. This is like straight out of James Bond. And the twist is he left a little note next to it. The first note was letters to prosecutors. And then the second thing was a note that said attorney-client privilege.
So here's a challenge to our dudes named Ben. You all know each other. Find out. This is a sysadmin issue. You need to know. We need to know.
I think this is a spook operation at this point.
It's ISI.
But not ISI spook. I'm talking about one of our guys.
Pinning it on.
That's the only thing that makes any sense. Everything's covered up. It's hushed up. I think these guys were brought in to spy on someone as part of something. We don't know. I mean, we can't find out. It's one of these things. And the guys were shuffled off. They were extracted and sent back to Pakistan for now, and there's nobody pursuing it because it's like, they get the phone call saying, hey, you can't pursue it because this is national security, just knock it off.
Yeah, we don't have to send around D notices here in America. We just call you. Hey. No. Okay, both. That's our press freedom right there. Ooh, yeah. Press freedom. So important. So important. The president is going to meet with Putin. Oh, boy. Even Shep Smith is upset about this one.
So I have NATO. I have the UK, which is in somewhat turmoil. And I have Putin. Frankly, Putin may be the easiest of them all. Who would think? Who would think?
He may be right. After all, President Trump has been demanding our NATO allies spend more on defense and questioning why the United States is protecting Germany. But when it comes to Putin, NATO's main adversary, the man who ordered the meddling in our election, invaded Ukraine and took over Crimea, the former KGB agent who stands accused of poisoning a former spy in England and murdering journalists and his own political opponents, of him, President Trump recently said, Putin is fine. In fact, aides say President Trump and Putin plan to sit down in a room with no advisors and no transcribers, only their translators. Of course, NATO was created to protect the European nations from Russian aggression. Never in our nation's history has a reality like that existed.
Space Force.
You were going to say something?
Protect them from Soviet Union.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Soviet Union. We have to stay on top of that. You're absolutely right. And actually, we think it's very important what we do, of course. But when it really comes down to it, do people really care? Are people really worried about? Do they follow the Mueller investigation, or is it all just one big thing on Twitter?
I think your earlier clip with the idiots that don't know anything, just spewing their personal bigotries, pretty much, I think, summarizes what you just asked.
Okay, and I think I can add a little bit on top of that. Big fan of the show Jeopardy. Love watching Jeopardy. That's where the smart people go. You'd think.
And I'll take Russia meddling for 1,000, Alex. Only the smartest of the smart get to be on Jeopardy, right? So what does this little exchange last night say about the nation's focus, or lack thereof, on the whole Mueller-Russia meddling and collusion investigation?
In 2017, this ex-national security advisor pleaded guilty to lying to the FBI.
John, do you know the answer?
Yeah, it'd be Flynn.
I'm sorry. Oh, I'm so sorry. You didn't answer in the form of a question.
Who is Flynn?
Lying to the FBI. Suzanne.
Who's Kelly?
No. Steve. Who's Gorka? No.
Gorka.
I would bomb on Jeopardy, but I'd get that one right. The answer? Who is Michael Flynn?
That's how important it is. Nobody knows nothing.
No, and these are the Jeopardy people on Jeopardy are smart.
It's Jeopardy, man. It's Jeopardy. I can never watch the show again. Oh, jeez.
Pretty pathetic.
Okay.
Did you get a Kardashian question right?
Yeah, no kidding.
Okay, another local story. This is almost an Ask Adam, but it's not quite. I want you to play this Bart is not safe clip.
Okay.
Tomorrow, BART planners are expected to discuss two options for early morning service. That's because BART trains are scheduled to start an hour later next year. Starting in February, BART service will begin at 5 a.m. instead of 4 a.m. This is in order to give crews more time to make the underwater Transbay Tube earthquake safe. Tomorrow, the BART Board of Directors will hear competing proposals.
Okay.
I cut it off because... Wait a minute, they put this tube in really recently within my, and it wasn't safe or made earthquake proof when it was put in? Are you kidding me?
So it's not an old thing. It's new.
Yes, it wasn't put in the 1920s or anything.
Mm-hmm.
So they put this thing in and now they're going to make it earthquake. It doesn't make sense to me that they were, it just is either a boondoggle or it's a waste of money. Or the thing is a disaster. I find it very weird.
Don't take the BART would be my advice at all.
So we have another story which brings me to the boondoggle thing. One more local story. I want you to listen carefully to this story and tell me if you think there's some screwball information in here. This is the cost of graffiti in San Francisco.
This is really putting together a very complex case. It was easier for us to go to a grand jury in terms of the scope of the work.
The district attorney's office says the city spends in excess of $20 million a year getting rid of graffiti, and businesses pay more than $3,300 on average to clean up a major incident.
Now, they busted a bunch of graffiti guys, but they're just doing a lot of tagging and making a mess. But do you think any city spends $23 million to clean up a few tags here and there?
I don't know. I mean, I know they spend $20 million on cleaning up poop.
I think it's a scam. They're not spending that kind of money to clean up graffiti. And what's the city spending it for? I thought most of the business owner takes them $3,300 to clean up one incident. How many incidents are there? And that's the business owner's responsibility. He's the one scraping it off the window or whatever.
So there's about 900 incidents?
Well, there could be, but then it's still that's not the city's responsibility. What does the city do? They only do.
You're worked
I just
up.
find this number to be outrageous.
You're really worked up about this. It's California.
This is another local scam. They're just stealing money from the public.
John, you live in California.
Yes.
That's where all your money gets stolen all the time.
It's a ripoff. Yeah, I agree.
It's a total ripoff.
Just for the weather.
Yeah, exactly. That's what Scott Adams always says. Have you seen the weather? Yeah, all right, bro. All right, listen to this. Tell me what's wrong with this report.
You are feeling overworked. Nearly 4 in 10 American workers are working 2 jobs. Some say they do it for extra spending money. But financial website Bankrate.com found 38% of people with second jobs are working extra just to make ends meet.
They can't afford to cover their ordinary living expenses, so that they do need that extra source of income.
The study also found men are earning 3 times more than women in those side jobs, but they say that could be because they're putting in more hours in a second gig.
What was wrong with that report?
I don't know. I lost. It wandered off in such a way that I couldn't. But I want you to play it again.
I'll play the second half, and
okay.
It's at the end. Why is it not playing? Hold on.
You are feeling overworked.
They can't afford to cover their ordinary living expenses, so that they do need that extra source of income.
The study also found men are earning 3 times more than women in those side jobs, but they say that could be because they're putting in more hours in a second gig.
I mean, hello, Sherlock. Men are earning more because they work more hours. That might be the reason. They literally just said that.
Yeah, that's what he said.
Yes. If you put in more hours, you're going to make more money. But that's somehow...
women should get paid the same amount.
Yes, for doing less, I guess. Somehow it's income disparity. I don't know. I just thought it was an odd little report.
Twisted the story. They just made it to fit their agenda. You're right.
Yes. All right. Anything for us before we go?
I've got the... I got the stupidest clip I've had for a while. Reasons they have this, stop the presses. We're going to expose why people are having less babies.
Why are so many Americans having fewer babies? The U.S. birth rate at a record low for the second year in a row. A new survey by the New York Times says the top reason is childcare is too expensive. Others said they wanted more time for the kids they already have. And a third factor, fears about the economy.
No.
Dogs are people, too.
We know the true answer to that. It's because dogs are people, too, and they're less expensive.
Yeah, and they die earlier.
Yes. Leaving you time in your golden years as an empty nester. It's problem solved.
An empty dog houser.
That's right. All right, everybody. Thank you very much for tuning in. Thank you, Troll Room. NoAgendaStream.com. This is where you can always listen live. We'll do it again on Sunday. No doubt we will have some zingers from the Strzok questioning. The little show that they like to put on.
Too easy to do, not to do it.
Yeah, and there'll be some good stuff in there. Someone getting all huffy and puffy. And who knows what could happen. Today's a show day. Anything can happen these days. We'll be here to guide you through it and help you keep your sanity. That's what we do. And coming to you from downtown Austin, Texas, capital of the Drone Star State, FEMA Region Number 6 is where it's located on the governmental maps in the 5x9 Cludio in the common law condo. In the morning, everybody, I'm Adam Curry.
And from northern Silicon Valley, I'm John C. Dvorak.
We return on Sunday. Remember us at Dvorak.org/NA. Until then, adios, mofos. I need a cab.
We much. We jitty. We down. We down. All down. We much. We jitty. We down. Down. We down. Down. We down. Down. Oh no. First stop Kazakhstan. First stop Beijing. First stop Chipolate. First stop La Vita. Oh no. First stop Kazakhstan. First stop Beijing. First stop Chipolate. First stop La Vita. There's no real conflict. Up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, about down, up, down, down, about down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, La Vita. Up, down, up, down, up, down, Hubris. About down, about down, about down, Rush Lombard. Down, up, down, up, down, up, down, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, La Vita. We much resist. Sigourney Weaver, we much resist. Fran Drescher, La Vita, we much resist. Hubris, we much resist. And Antonine Scalia, up, down, about down, we jitty, shadow down, La Vita, up, down, we jitty. America. Fuck yeah, coming again to save the motherfucking day, yeah, America. Fuck yeah, freedom is the only way, yeah, terrorist, your game is through, 'cause now you have to answer to America, fuck yeah, America, fuck. Riders on the stormy, riders on the stormy. They say that Trump felt horny when he saw her on the pony. He
He called her on the phone to organize a bone. Riders on the stormy.
Mofo.
Dvorak.org/NA.
Oh my God! Woo! Listen to that horn!